We've got 5.5
Okay,
minutes.
so I always start the YouTube stream first. This is how this works. So it has to go here first, and then when the actual time comes up, the Audentio software reaches out and just starts on its own, in theory. In practice,
So,
who knows?
So I'm not seeing Gretchen on the live feed site. I'm just there's an
No,
N of
you
one.
won't. Not yet. That's
Yeah,
that's
okay.
not going to go live until 6. Adam, on this graphic that you grabbed, you look entirely too happy.
Thrilled to be here.
We all sound so thrilled, don't we?
Yeah, the beginning is always fun. Have you had a little bump in signups like you always get towards the conference?
Yeah, there's always a few more people who are signing up. We'll know tomorrow is actually like overnight. Tonight is when we're going to get the last few, the really last minute people. So I'm sending out an e-blast right now, actually. So,
you get them at 10 o'clock also, or 9:30, whatever it is.
Yeah. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that people actually sign up. Okay, so let me actually log into this too, I suppose. I should join the party. So in theory, the way the Audentio software works, since we're streaming this out to YouTube right now, and hello YouTube, nobody's watching us, but the way it works is when you stream out to a commercial service like YouTube or Vimeo or whatever else, the stream is going live, so it's going all over the world, no one's watching it. But what happens is Audentio software actually, at the appropriate time, which is like 3 minutes from now, then takes that stream from YouTube or whatever and just stuffs it into its own channel and then rebroadcasts it. So that's really what's happening here. I start the YouTube stream. Audentio software says, hey, I want to reach out and grab this YouTube stream. I pointed at the right one, and then it grabs it. And that's in theory what should happen. So in practice, we'll find out.
We'll find out.
I'm not anticipating disaster with any of this stuff, so. But yeah, we'll see. And I have over here, wait, let me close this up. So I have obviously the slide deck, a little slide deck that I made, which we can go over with people.
I have a feeling it's going to be a really long 3 hours.
Yeah, there's going to be not a lot to do. Eventually, I'll probably get bored and put in a movie or something. I'm really just doing it because we do have a lot of people who've never taken the conference before, and they were asking questions. They've been, I get endless amounts of support email this time of year specifically. Oh my God, it's just overwhelming. And then you get the fun ones. I don't want to we have 2 minutes before we actually go live, but some of the fun ones are like people who actually thought the conference started today. And so they're frantically emailing me, how come I can't get in? Where's the links? What's going on? And I'm like, oh boy, you missed by a day. Or there are other ones where people were saying, I thought the conference was supposed to start on like January 18th or something. I'm like, why would you think that? So, yeah.
These are smart people.
Well, people just don't read very carefully, I think, is a little, that happens a lot of the time. So, the on-demand thing's an interesting one, though, because multiple people have emailed me saying, hey, I want to watch the on-demand classes. Why can't I watch them yet? And like this was literally when I was in the middle of processing all the lectures, and I'm like, well, you can't watch them because they don't exist. So
did you get them all in, by the way, Adam? Everybody?
Yeah. No, you would have known about it if I didn't, because I would have blown a gasket. So yeah, they all finally came in.
I wonder if we need to make a graphic moving forward for next year, around for January, that just says dates, conference dates, or live CE dates and on-demand dates. Do you know what I mean? Or just a reminder that on-demand courses are not available during live weekends.
We can even do that for April. It doesn't have to be for next year.
All right, we're going to be on in 30 seconds, so we better be ready to mute ourselves.
Yeah, make sure that the stream that you have open is muted on your computer.
Mhm.
Well, we'll have to wait for it to start before it actually does it.
It seems to be working here. I'm not getting like flashing lights saying your stream to YouTube has blown up, so that's always good. I mean, it better not blow up. This machine that I built was beefy enough. This is ridiculous.
Oh, here we
Stream will start
go.
soon.
Oh, there we go.
Lobby has gone live. I'm not seeing it.
Not yet, no.
It's a black screen.
Yep.
And I don't see anybody in the room except for us.
So
I'm not seeing, it says lobby has gone live, but I'm not seeing anything in, like
Yeah.
the video was supposed to have started, but it's just a black window.
that's curious, isn't it? So let's see if this is a
No,
problem
it's
on
there.
YouTube.
Gretchen, go out and come back in.
All right.
Go out
Now
and come back in.
playing. Watch now.
Oh yeah, there it is. So that was a YouTube thing or an Audentio thing. So yep.
Mine didn't work. I will
It's
go
there.
back.
We are here.
Oh, I believe you. I'm just concerned that I'm not seeing it.
We actually have a person there. Hi, caller.
Like over
Here we go. Yep.
Get the last few like
Finally.
turn your sound off. There you go.
Yep, there we go. Get my sound off.
Oh, all
Oh,
right.
Can you hear me?
Yes. So let me
and
actually.
we have, when one of our speakers is here.
Well, that's cool. So I just put up the slide, the open house slide, so people can, instead of seeing us, see some slides. Welcome, everyone. I know there's only a few people here so far. People are coming right in. Hopefully, we do get a good crowd because, right, we really do want to see people here today to test their accounts out, to make sure they work, and to answer any questions that they might have. So, yeah, so hopefully the crowd will build over a few minutes. Usually in the beginning, I mean, you saw it even last night with the webinar, the first couple minutes, it takes people, a few minutes to come in. So hopefully they'll refresh their screens if they aren't seeing stuff. And we'll go from there. And let me actually... Oh, wait. You know what's weird about this? It's not showing the stream out live. Let me actually... let me actually see if I can figure this out. Maybe Jake is there.
Yeah, he is. He just said something about the playhead sync. So he fixed it. And that's, I guess he heard, he noticed or heard me talking about it.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to actually just ask him about.
We do have Audentio here, Adam.
Yep, yeah, I know. I'm talking to Jake right now from Audentio, who just fixed my screw up. So thank you for that, Jake. But there's a, yeah, so he just made it so the playhead is actually live. So when people refresh the page, they'll get right to the live part of it. So the playhead is where, you know how you can go back and forth in a video? A playhead is just where you are in that video. And for something like this, the playhead should always be live.
Thank God for Audentio.
Yeah.
We had another one of our speakers join us, which I think is pretty cool. I'm glad, and they are both new speakers to us for this year. So thanks to them for joining us today and to make sure that we have their accounts working. So this is great news. Thanks to you.
Yep. And
We don't have his logo. We don't have
What-
logos or, little icons next to the speakers, Gretchen, myself, like we usually have.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why we don't yet, but I'm sure Jake can take a look at it. This is, one of the things we check out here. Hello, everyone. I just put us back on camera again. Hello, everyone. So
Eileen, you'll see us right now. Adam had something else. So when we have our live stream up like this, sometimes we'll put up some slides so you can see some information, or sometimes you'll see a video. But yeah, sometimes you'll just hear our voices and sometimes you'll see us.
yep. So right now you can actually see in my little window up here, you can see with the slide deck, but you also see the rest of us. So I think what I'd like to do is show everyone the slide deck just for a minute now that we're getting started here, because people had questions. So let me pop this over so people can actually see it nice and big. So everyone can see the slides really big now. So again, thank you everyone for coming today to the open house, just to test your account out and have a little bit of fun and talk to us and get your questions answered. There are a lot of new people, by the way, at CEwire this year who maybe haven't attended before or don't know how it works. So that's why we're here, because we're going to answer everybody's questions. And thanks again to our sponsors. Be sure to visit the discussion threads for each sponsor to hear about any discounts or any news that they have going on. We're obviously going to blab about it over the next 2 days as well. And again, thank you for attending. We couldn't do it without you guys. It's at this point, CEwire is the largest conference in eye care. Steve was just asking, actually, before we went on the air, how many people have signed up already for tomorrow's event. And at this point, I think we're over 3,000. So
Excellent.
It's hard for me to know, right? Because in these last few minutes, because I spent the last basically 4 days living in a cave, getting everything set up here. So I haven't been obsessively looking at how many people have been signing up. But it's always at the last minute we get this big blob of people. So we'll know more by tomorrow how many people are going to be here.
By the end of the year, could be almost double that.
Yeah, yep. So we typically about between 4,000 and 5,000 people. So yeah. So we'll see. It's really incredible, though, and we couldn't do it without everyone, showing up, and obviously without our speakers too, right? They are the ones who make the content that people want to see. So without them, we'd be absolutely nowhere. So thank you to them for, coming year in and year out to make some really cool lectures for folks. The other thing I want to stress, people always ask, like, they think that this is some sort of gigantic enterprise just because of the size of it, right? And the number of people that we have and the number of lectures that we offer. The reality is the way we're able to do this so inexpensively is because this is really doctor to doctor, right? You're looking at the people who work on this stuff, and there's not a cast of thousands. There's not a private equity group running this thing. There's not a giant publishing house. This is just us. And because of it, we're able to keep our overhead low, and that's how we can keep the prices low. So this is by us, by clinicians, by your peers, for you, with sort of no friction in between. And that's why the lectures are the way they are. And that's we have that freedom to really produce what it is that we want to see and what we think you want to see. So again, thanks for showing up. So
that's where we
important
get the best speakers who like to be unencumbered with sponsors and things that I have to do because of them. This is probably what they want to do. We get the best speakers that you can imagine in eye care, both optometry and ophthalmology, as well as some PhDs.
Yep, and I think we're going to have a lot of time over the weekend if people want to sit and listen to this, to talk a little bit philosophically about sponsorship in education in general and the pros and cons of it. Because I think a lot of people believe that sponsorship is inevitable, and I'm here to tell you it's not. You can do things differently, and I think this is not just a problem with education, it's across the internet entirely, where people want free stuff. And it's led to perverse incentives, but we're going to get into all that over the weekend, I'm sure, because it's a really interesting discussion that you're seeing play out in real time everywhere on the internet today, not just here. So anyway, if you have any problems at the event, on the screen you can see you can always chat with us on the chat box on the right. If you feel so inclined right now, type into the chat box just to say hi, so you can see how it works. So those chat messages obviously come to everybody in real time who are in the room. So you're not only going to get help from us here in the lobby, but frequently from your peers as well. Anybody who's hanging out here can feel free to give advice as well. You have a lot of CEwire veterans here, people who've been doing the conference for close to 10 years, and they are usually very helpful, especially if we're taking a break or something, and we all walked away to go to the bathroom or something. You know that there are going to be other people in the lobby who can help you as well as the day unfolds. So if failing that, if you don't want to use chat, if you send an email to support@CEwire2025.com, we'll get that as well. The only caveat to that one is that it might take us a little bit of time to get back to it, right? Because that actually gets into my mailbox and then I look at it there. So in our downtime and on our breaks, I'll look at that email and answer them as quickly as I can, but chat is clearly the way to go. Now, obviously, there are some times when people can't log in, where they can't even make it to this chat room, where they're in trouble. And that's what email is useful for. But for the most part, if you're at the conference and you're here, just pop into the lobby and chat with us, and that's the fastest way to get anything resolved. So again, to get to class, the key way to sort of interact with the system is, first of all, download the schedule. So you can download it right from the CEwire2025.com main website. There's a link to the schedule. And also on the main page when you came in here today, when you logged in, there's a menu on the left. And that left menu has all the things that you can do, like download the schedule or look at the course descriptions, because that's also really important. Links to your transcripts and so on and so forth. So that left menu has most of what you need. And you can always get to the left menu by clicking on that back button that you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. If you click on that, that'll take you right back out to the main menu. And that's got links to all the classrooms. It's got links to the lobby. It's, again, got links to all the materials, the handouts, you name it, it's all there. And that's where you choose your classrooms and you choose what to go to. So just refer to that PDF schedule, go to the classroom that you want to go to. And then to get credit for your talks, all you need to do is show up. So show up for the class you want to see and take the post-course survey at the end. Very straightforward. If you've been at the entire lecture and you've taken the post-course survey, the credit will automatically be applied to your account. Now, people have asked, well, what happens if my internet crashes or whatever and I have to reboot the computer and whatever? It has a little bit of slack in it, so you can miss some of the lecture, but not that much. So I liken it to like taking a bathroom break when you're at a conference and you have to run out of the room in the middle of someone's talk. That's kind of the same thing. The system monitors you for the amount of time that you're there, but try not to miss too many minutes. And when you take the post-course survey at the end, as soon as you do it, as long as you have enough time, the credit will post. With the asynchronous talks, it's a little different. You have to take a quiz at the end, so be aware of that. Quizzes are not something that I enjoy or I think anybody enjoys, but this is what ARBA wants. If you're doing something asynchronously, you have to take the quiz at the end. So always remember that. If you need DEA credits, just as an FYI, the DEA does not care when you actually watch your courses, so you can take them on demand. So if you feel like watching something else live over this weekend, don't worry about it. You can come back and watch the DEA courses on demand. And just as an aside, many MDs take this stuff asynchronously, or they'll actually just read it out of a journal. They won't necessarily take a synchronous class. That's how little the DEA actually cares about this. So,
Adam, that's a really good point. So for attendees who are here for a live weekend, they may be better served by taking another class, glaucoma or something about, anything else that we've got, cataract surgery, IOLs, whatever, and then save the opioid and DEA classes for a Thursday night with a glass of wine, and you can bang through some of them and save the synchronous credits for things that can actually help you and are needed to be synchronous.
Yep. The hilarious part about the DEA classes, just as an aside, because I actually watched them all and I took the quizzes because, obviously I have all the data. But the funny thing is, if you actually do it that way and you take it on demand and you take the quizzes, by the very end, you will be able to answer every single question on those quizzes without even really watching the lecture, right? Because it's about opioids. How much is there, right? There's some really detailed questions that some of the lectures go into about the demographics and so forth. But the actual questions about the drugs themselves, you will become an expert rapidly.
However, you still need to watch the class.
You still need to watch the class for sure. And in fact, the classes are all different, right? They don't just all cover, what is fentanyl and how does it work, right? And its mechanism. There's a lot of interesting stuff too about the demographics of the opioid crisis. and using it in eye care as well. So the classes are all different, but there's a basic set of knowledge that they also all cover, and it's just kind of funny because by the end, you'll be able to rattle it off in your sleep.
And if you do want to take them all live synchronous, I believe they're consecutive the way you did the schedule, right, Adam? So people could stay in the same room all day.
Correct. Yeah, that was intentional. So it's on Sunday. I think it was room 2. I don't remember, but it's all on Sunday. They're all back to back to back, and they're all in one room. Yep. And
so after taking 8 courses like that, you might need some opioid, but that's not up to us.
Yeah, it's a lot. So synchronous dates. So again, mark them all down. This is a point of confusion for some people, and I wish it weren't. We offer all the classes at every live event. People sometimes think, oh, you're getting 77 hours here, but I'm not going to be able to watch all of them, so I'm going to miss them. That's not the case. The schedule is going to be the same at all 4 live events, so you can come back and watch the other tracks at the other live events. So don't feel like you're missing out this time, right? Because you can always come back next time and watch a different track. And again, we try to keep the schedule as similar as possible, so the same lectures are competing against the same lectures, right? So that means you'll have the opportunity to actually take all 77 credits if you show up for all 4 shows, and you have a very strong will and a strong bladder.
Please write down the courses you take, because if you take the same course again, you won't get credit twice. Many people don't remember what they took, so just write it down. So next time you come back in April or June or September, you'll know what you took, and don't take that again, please.
Yeah, because that's a really important point. So I have like my old man thing here. So like literally, you can see my schedule here. It's got like slash marks through it. It's don't feel like, oh, I'm an old person, I'm going to be writing all over a paper document. Definitely do it, because then you can keep this and just know what you've seen already. So yeah, I have no shame. So yeah, I had no shame at all. This is actually how I've been setting up the conference. Actually, I've been using these paper schedules to program the data into the system. So sometimes it's just easier to glance at it than to pull it up on a screen. So that's that. So how long does it take my credits to get to Arbo? It takes 2 weeks. So we typically transmit the synchronous credits about the Wednesday or Thursday after this weekend's over. Sometimes I'll go a little bit longer, just to make sure that people get all their surveys in, right? I don't want people to miss getting credits that they've actually earned. So I'll delay sending the stuff into Arbo for a few days to make sure that people have time to get their credits. And you also get an email from me reminding you, hey, if you missed any surveys, here's a link to all of them so you can take the ones that you missed. Because that's the worst, when you've sat through something and you don't get credit for it. So anyway, so it'll typically go in on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday after the conference is done. And then it takes Arbo usually about 1 business week to review that entire mess that we send them and to post our credits, right? Because if you think about it, as the largest CE conference at this point, we have 3,000 people. We're going to be sending, on average, the average person will watch about, give or take, 15 hours this weekend. So you can do the math. That's a lot of credits we have to send over to them. So it's a situation where they have to actually look through all of them. It's not an automatic thing. Arbo does not have a system in place to just automatically accept the credits that you give them. They actually have to look at them, and that's why it takes them a little time to get in. So the bottom line is you can expect credits to post about 10 to 14 days after you take the conference. So about 2 weeks from Monday, let's say. All right, so that's that, and then we'll get into this other stuff later about SII and whatever else, but I just wanted to give people sort of the skinny on how everything works, so they don't feel like they, I don't know, don't have a handle on it. So hope that makes sense.
I've noticed, Adam, that for people who have joined us here, and thank you to everybody who's here, if you'll notice after your name, you have a little icon, and that shows that you have, it says CEwire 2025 ticket. That means that you have signed up for CEwire. So that's just interesting for us if we're seeing that some people are having trouble getting into classes tomorrow. And if you're here now and you see your name and you have that, then excellent. That means that
don't,
all's good and your account is working.
yeah, I don't remember if that was in place last year. I'll have to ask Jake about that. It's been, a while
Yeah.
since we last did this, but Steve, you're also right that it doesn't actually show the speakers versus regular users, and I'm not sure why. So I'll have to ask.
Yeah.
Jake about that too to make sure that gets done, because we want to be able to differentiate somehow, even if it's like a little thing like color. So
I
yeah,
think that's what it was. I think all of us had a red, our names were in red as opposed to black.
yep. So yeah, I'll ask Jake about that. So
If somehow
other
Jake can put the speakers at the top of each room, it's really helpful for us to make sure that they're there and they're having no trouble, etc. I don't know
yep.
if you can do that.
Yeah, so I don't know. We can ask about it and try to figure it out. And I actually have to go through tonight one of my final steps, so it's it's very interesting. Maybe if we get super bored at the conference during the live stream, I could show people the steps that we have to go through to program a lot of the data. But part of the last little, it's almost like a checklist for a countdown for a rocket. But one of the very last things I do is that I triple check that each one of the speakers is actually listed as a speaker internally in the system so that they can get into the conference. Again, you learn through doing, right? I remember there were a couple of speakers who couldn't get in, and I'm like, well, why not? And then I realized, oh crap, I didn't check them off properly. So, yeah.
So we just had somebody say that he can't, that he isn't able to register. So I directed him back to the actual website for the conference, which is CEwire2025.com. And you can click register right there on the top or anywhere, like scroll down. There's a bunch of different register buttons. So that's
Oh,
where
I
you
see.
can
I
to
see that
register.
this thing is
He's
giving
saying
me
registration's closed.
so that's odd. Let me take a look here, shall we?
We do know Steve McDaniel. He's a bright guy. He's a regular on ODwire,
Oh,
so
I believe him.
he
I
knows what
believe
to
him
do.
if he tells me something like that. So let me actually look and see why that might be happening.
Maybe we have too many Stevens registered.
You could have Paul try to register. That's the only way. This is a
So
team of 3 and 4 total that does everything, and Adam does probably 90% of what has to be done. Just so you're aware of it.
I would go 99.5%. Yeah, that's weird.
With
It
a
shouldn't
front end.
say that.
Wow, that would be bad. Are you getting other registrations in as we spoke, Adam?
so hang on, I can't.
That would be one.
I tried to do it myself, but it wasn't helpful because I already had,
You're in. Yeah, we're in.
yeah,
You
I'm already
can't-
registered, so it's not helpful.
That's why Paul would be the only one that can do it because he doesn't go into the conference. I could try. My wife's not here. Have her register.
Well, Adam is getting Audentio on it. Well, Stephen, I'm glad that you came tonight and tried to register, and not that I'm glad that you're having trouble, but I'm glad that we're able to figure it out and see that there's a problem and address it. So thank you for that.
Yes, you're very helpful. In fact, there's 3,000 plus people added already, so therefore, maybe when we turned it on, a fuse blew or a vacuum tube.
Vacuum too.
Yeah.
Steve, do you know that when I was a child and we had a fuse blow, if my dad didn't have any extra fuses, he would get a penny and put it in there?
I was going to complete your sentence because my dad did the same thing. It's dangerous though because of the way fires. But we did exactly the same thing in our apartment in the Bronx. Exact. So they were both engineers.
Yeah.
So let me see. I'll
He's
get
saying
this
it
working.
asked to
Don't you worry.
take some of it. It says it asked to authorize this account. I do, then registration closed. If you look at the
Yep.
chat.
So we had another question, Anisha, and I'm not sure if I answered your question. It looks like asking not just for DEA, just regular. I'm assuming you're asking how many credits you need, and that Oh, for New Jersey. All right. Well, Steve, you might know that, but it does vary
Yes,
by state. And that's
I was going to
because
say
they
that.
all change from year to year. Unfortunately, the best bet is to check with your state board, because any
But I,
information we have, it's hard to stay on top of it all.
but I'm brilliant to know all the states. Actually, no, Anisha, I am licensed in New Jersey, and it's two.
Yes, we are lucky that we have Steve here who is licensed in New Jersey. But yeah, otherwise it would be a nightmare for us to keep something like that up to date. And we would really be afraid to give somebody incorrect information and then have someone's license in jeopardy because our
Uh,
information wasn't accurate. So always, always check with your own state board to see what what your state requires.
Right. But Anisha, if you also have a DA license, that doesn't preclude not taking the eight. There was a lot of double negatives. You need 8 credits if you have a DEA license to prescribe opiates.
Regardless of state.
Yeah, that's national.
Okay, guys, so I just fixed it, and Steve McDaniel should be able to look and see. Should be in good enough shape. If he refreshes that registration page, it should work. So that was an interesting one. Never, I think, I'm trying to remember, Jake, if we ran into this one a couple years ago. So in the system itself, when you're programming it, if you don't actually give it a registration end date, it eventually gives that error message. But what is so deceptive about that issue is that it lets you register all the way up until about an hour ago for whatever reason.
Okay.
And then it shut itself off. So yeah.
I thought we blackballed Steven and he couldn't register, and now he caught us. Just kidding, Steve.
So that's it's such a weird one, right? Because it lets you register all the way up until like literally an hour ago. I'm looking at the registration list now as we're catching up on it. Somebody actually registered at 2:48, so my time. So that was less than an hour ago.
30 minutes ago.
So between the time that we went on the air, right, and the 2:48, something happened with the system, maybe because we went on the air for this event. Perhaps that's the reason that the registration closed, but whatever, it works now. So one of a million problems. And in fact, this was more of a me problem, right? So it's a user interface problem in that it didn't enforce the registration end date and worked without it until it didn't.
So and then it said no bueno.
Usually what you want is something that fails immediately and says, hey, moron, fill out an end date or else I'm not going to even let you set this event up. That's kind of what you need, a UI that's a little more rigid.
Let me fill in the blanks for Anisha and all New Jersey people who might be listening, or she could pass it on. Plan it, Anisha, because your biennial ends April 30th. You could take 2 DA now and as many TPA and et cetera in the January and April seminars live or synchronous, and then take the remainder in June and September for the next biennial. So you could satisfy this biennial 2 years and next biennial just by kind of timing it out. So just be aware of that. That's New Jersey. Other states have different calendar years, etc. So it's not. I can't comment on those. But I'm specifically doing the same thing, taking courses. I already complete. I have like 150 courses, but that's another thing. But next year I'll start taking them after in the June lectures. I love my lecture. It's great. I know it by heart.
Well, that's a great little tidbit, Steve, for states that do have a differing cutoff date than just 12/31, like many of them do. If you do have a mid-year cutoff like that, then CEwire, this year's CEwire 2025 is of benefit that it can help you in a couple of different ways. So that's kind of cool. That is one benefit of not having a year-end licensure renewal.
We really go from January to December 1st if you count on demand. So they have the whole year, depending on when their biennial ends, or I think most have a 2-year requirement or calendar.
Yep.
Okay, Rich, see you tomorrow. Remember to take a shower.
He's probably gone by now.
It says a few seconds though. So. He was a classmate of mine. He comes every year to this.
Carl was having a question that, yes, this is simply an orientation, a test drive.
So Carla, there is a video playing. If you hit refresh for whatever reason, I don't know why you can't see it, to the left side there, if you hit reload or refresh your page, you should actually be able to see a streaming video.
But no CE video.
No, there's, can you imagine people getting credit for listening to this?
And since
Thanks
there's
for
10
coming
hours,
on, Carla. And we'll
Yep.
be here in the lobby all day tomorrow and Sunday if there's any problems that you have. So
Yep.
feel free to pop by, say hello, or
Yeah.
ask a question.
Right, Carla, so that's the important thing. We're always here to help, right? You can always use a support email address as well. Someone will always be around. So don't worry about not being able to do stuff or figure it out. We'll be here. So, and it should be fun.
Anisha has a question about specific lectures. Anisha,
Sure.
all 77 credits are going this weekend, so you can watch anything you want. You can sit there for 10 hours tomorrow, 10 hours on Sunday, or however many hours we have. And you can take as many classes as you're willing to sit through in a live weekend. So absolutely.
Yep, let me actually bring up
the
the
only thing
schedule.
you can't do is sometimes you have a 2-hour lecture. You can't leave that lecture after an hour and go to another lecture. You have to complete that 2-hour course, but there are only a few of those.
Right, so that's the thing. You have to complete the entire class. So if you're sitting in a 2-hour class, make sure you actually sit for the entire 2 hours. And again, if there's another class that you wanted to see, like let's say you're sitting in a 2-hour class, but there's a class in another room during that second hour, remember you can come back next time or the time after that or the time after that to catch the lecture that you missed. So you never feel like you have to miss any lectures. These same 77 hours are going to be given again next time and next time and next time. So there'll be plenty of opportunities for you to see all of them. A lot of times what people do is they'll actually park themselves in one room and they won't ever leave. And they'll just sit there, and then when the lecture finishes, they'll go click the survey button, take the survey, and they'll continue to sit in that room and just wait for the next lecture to start. Because we get some really hardcore people here who will take all 77 credits, and what they'll do is they'll be like, all right, I'm sitting in room 1 today, I'm doing room 2 next time, then 3, and then 4. And in that way, they can get all the credit.
Way to avoid taking the same classes twice. If
Yep.
you do room 1 the first weekend, room 2 the second weekend, and that way you aren't going to spend your valuable time taking the same course twice, because of course you will get only 1 credit no matter how many times you sit through us.
Yep.
Right. And if you sit through the whole day, at the end, please shut out the lights when you leave.
I'm always impressed actually by how many people do stick around to the bitter end. It's really gratifying, because when we first started doing this, I was so concerned when I build these schedules, right? So this is one of the challenges of CEwire, is building out the schedule. When I first started building the schedules, I was very worried that I'd be giving people at the end, like the last credits at the end of the day, I'd be giving them short shrift. And I'd worry like, oh my God, they're going to hate me. Like I'm putting them at 7:45. Like no one's going to show up. Who's going to watch that? The reality is, though, people do stick it out all the way to the end of the day. And hundreds of people will still be there watching each talk at the end. And I guess also, I'm on the West Coast, so people like me, it's sometimes better, to stick around later than show up earlier, because 7 a.m. is really harsh.
We did have a question about on-demand, so I think we should be clear that our on-demand classes will launch on Monday. That if you are joining us over a live event weekend, you will be getting live Synchronous CE credit, and the on-demand lectures are turned off during those 4 live event weekends. But you've got the rest of the year until December 1st outside of these 8 days. I really should do the math to figure out how long that is. But yes, you can take on-demand classes anytime, day or night, as long as it's not during one of these 4 live event weekends.
Right.
And unfortunately, after the conference is over in December, we do turn it off, and those lectures will be not available, because COPE has a requirement for live that they only are available for a year anyway, so they would have to get them re-credentialed.
Yep. Yeah, and
plus we also need to have time at the end of the year to get everything processed. And so, yeah, So that's why we have everything stop on December 1st, because it's only a few weeks later that we're launching the next year's CE Wire. So, but that's a long time. I don't know of many other places that have on-demand CE available for that long.
It's a long time. The other reason that with a lot of the stuff comes down to is that, you know, our speakers don't necessarily want to have a lecture that runs that long, because things change too. Like, I know in some fields they don't, right? Stuff is pretty static year over year. But I can't tell you the number of people who've told me, like, I don't want someone watching my lecture over a year later, because they want, you know, it's been updated and they want to make sure that they have the latest content. So that's, again, one reason why we also cut it off. We always want to make sure whatever you're watching is as fresh as possible.
I could speak to that because my lecture's on AI, and even from when I finished it about a couple of weeks ago, new stuff has come out.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So
hopeless,
you're
right?
right.
Well, I mean, fortunately, what's good about yours, though, and again, with the system we've set up, is that if you have extra stuff to add, in the discussion thread for
Yep.
each one of the talks, you can actually add stuff. Just keep talking about it and
Yep.
talk about what's changed, and also during the chat. So, yeah, definitely useful.
And the other thing that we failed to mention is all lectures are unique. These lectures have never presented this lecture anywhere before. We vet them, we go through their ARBO list of lectures, and if they did one that's the same, we tell them they have to redo it. And so everything is new, complete, and nothing has been seen elsewhere.
Right. Part of the reason, you know, and again, we couldn't do it without the people who attend. And why it's so important that you're paying for your CE is because this is how we can actually tell the speakers, like, hey, we want brand new lectures, which is expensive, right? So the speakers, you know, each one is an honorarium. It's expensive to produce. But by people registering and paying for their CE, we can do it, right? The economics work where we can flow that money through and pay the speakers to give us the latest content. Because, you know, if I were a speaker, I would be very reticent to redo my material all the time for us, right? Which they're doing every year. But that's why we pay them so well, because we know that, you know, creating these lectures is a huge undertaking. So I'm just really happy with the way that the conference has turned out, where we can actually afford to do it. And by the way, also running each one of these lectures through COPE again, it's administratively challenging because we don't force the speakers to do it themselves. We'll actually run the lectures through COPE for them, which is a fair amount of work and cost involved too.
Somebody's
We just had a
asking,
question about.
yeah, you can answer it, Gretchen, go ahead.
Somebody had a question about watching on demand and what is different. And that's a really good question. So when you watch a class live during our live weekend, all you do is take a quick survey at the end, sort of a, you know, like a course evaluation. And that's the benefit of watching live. And you are tracked, that our software knows if you were in the class for that time slot or not. However, if you are watching on demand at 4 in the morning next Thursday, you certainly can be, but you will be required to take a quiz afterward. So that's the trade-off that COPE requires. If you are watching on demand, you do need to take a quiz that the speaker has created covering things that were addressed in the lecture.
Yep. And you can complete the survey right after the quiz, right after, excuse me, the lecture, or a week later. But please do it as quickly as possible so Adam doesn't lose more hair.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You know, we mentioned it before. I like to try to get the stuff into Arbo as fast as I can. And I really need everybody to get their surveys in on time, because otherwise your thing will get missed. It'll miss the train. And then what happens is you complain. You're like, oh, no, my lecture didn't make it. What can I do? And usually what I'll do is I'll try to circle back and get the lecture in for you later. But it's time consuming to do, right, versus sending it in the big batch. So, yeah.
And about the quiz, you have to pass with 70%. You can take it as many times till you get to 70%. Unlike other platforms, we don't show you what questions you got wrong and right. You just have to keep on taking the quiz to get 70%. But the lecturers try to make the quiz fair. I won't say easy, but if you listen to the lecture, you should pass easily.
Yeah, we tell them that these quizzes aren't really like, it's not like school, right, where you're trying to give like gotcha questions. It's really just to show, did the person actually comprehend the material, and take away sort of the big points. So most of the quizzes are passable, at least from what I saw. I didn't see any ones that were totally out of left field, so.
Eileen, so you
Eileen's
can take
asking.
the course,
Thank
the survey whenever you'd like. We recommend taking it right at the
So
end of a class.
yeah,
Um,
so I can
but
answer
you
this
can
actually.
take it.
So, Eileen, this is actually a strong point because we want you to take it right after the class because that's when it's freshest in your mind. So we've asked the speakers, don't make your courses too long. So after each class, there's always going to be, not always, but usually there's going to be a 5-minute long gap minimally between when the speaker stops talking and when the next class starts. So you'll have time to actually fill out the survey because the survey, as Gretchen said, is just a little survey like how did you like the talk kind of survey, right? It takes like a minute to fill out or less. So we really like you to do it right when the lecture's done.
After you do the first one, you'll get the hang of it and you'll do it in like 28 seconds.
Yeah, unless, of course, you have strong opinions about something, positively or negatively, right? If you want to write an essay, if you feel that.
This class sucked.
Yeah, if you want to write something like that, but you can always go back. So there's actually going to be, I want to show people too, I've created a page based on experience of what people want and need. And it's on your schedule too. On the last page of schedule, you'll have links to all of the stuff, but there's one link that you'll love called surveys. And I'll put it up on the screen right now so people can see it. Let me put it up here. Okay, so there's a link, CEwire2025.com/surveys. When you go there, this is a list of all the classes, right? And you click on a link and it'll take you straight to that class's survey. You can also get straight to the course's discussion thread and straight to the course's handout, right? So this is a comprehensive list of everything. So anything involving the live classes is here. So you can always come back to this page and fill out a survey if you've missed it. And I'm going to email everyone this link on Monday after the weekend's over, just to remind everyone where the surveys live. But it's critically important that people fill these out as fast as they can. So yeah. And oh, it looks like Paul is here.
Yes, I took an early dinner.
Excellent. How's it going?
Eating dinner at 5 o'clock at night. 2 years ago, I'd blow my brains out.
Paul's in,
Oi.
we are all over the country, by the way. Adam is on the West Coast, we're on the East Coast, and Paul's kind of in the middle.
Yep. Truly a national effort here trying to get it all done. Well, Dad, we were just going over just all the stuff for the weekend. So far, we haven't had any tech disasters, which has been great.
Able to get everybody on?
Yeah, no, it's been going well.
Yes.
We had one minor problem with our registration booth where it closed itself, but it's reopened now. So, so other than that, it's been surprisingly chill here, and I'm hoping that it's going to go well tomorrow. I mean, I think we've been at this long enough now that we pretty much get how it all works.
Yeah, thanks to you. You know.
Well, thanks to Audentio. I mean, so it's they technically have always been there when things fall apart. So I can't say enough about how much the work that they put in. Jake is here tonight, and he's actually been running everything behind the scenes. What I really appreciate about what he does too is when something's going wrong, he always seems to pinpoint immediately where that thing is that's going wrong. So for instance, with the registration thing right now, he knew almost intuitively like where the option was that I'd botched and how to actually fix it rapidly. So that's a really important thing.
He's so chill about it too. Nothing rattles him. He's on it. He takes care of it.
Yep.
Cheers to Jake.
Yeah, so very, very important to have a Jake in your life for something like this.
Yep. But let's give Adam some credit. Besides having to get the videos up to snuff and getting them all in, imagine submitting 77 credits in 2 different ways to Arbo, getting all the quizzes approved by a university one by one, and getting it done in time when speakers are sometimes late in getting their stuff in. It's yeoman work, and Adam does most of the busy work as well as the IT work.
It's challenging. The content of the conference is challenging just because of the sheer number of hours that we have.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's, as I'm going through it, I feel like, oh God, I never want to do this again. But you get through it. It takes a couple weeks from the time the speakers get the materials and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's every time I do it though, I always think, God, I never want to do this again. But then I think like, God, could we go for 100 credits next year?
You shut your mouth, Farkas.
Do you think there'd be any less people registering if there were less credits?
I don't
And
know.
how many less credits could you get away with?
Well, the thing is, we like to give people choice, right? Because we know that like we got like I want to say like 6 or 7 credits this year on keratoconus, and I know some people aren't interested in it, right? A lot of people are, but some people aren't. So the idea is we didn't want people to have to take stuff that they really didn't want to watch. So if the average person at the conference takes 40 hours, and I think that's about right, that means that they're ignoring another 30 hours at least. So the idea
When you
was
say average, Adam, does that mean median? So that's the middle, that you have people taking far more?
I'm not that smart, so I mean mean.
Yeah.
When I compute an average, I usually just mean mean. But we can look. I mean, we can look back at 2024. I haven't yet this year to see how many what the mean and median hours were if they were similar to each other.
Because because one problem is you're afraid to raise prices. And the only other way to, like vendors that make their package lighter, you could make the package lighter for the same price.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm as aggravated as everyone else with what's happening in the world with products continually getting cheaper. And I vowed when we started doing this to never do that. I won't do it. I always feel like if you're going to try to cut a corner, do it in places that won't actually impact the person's experience. And in my view, that would impact the person's experience. So,
you mean like a smaller box of cereal?
At some point, the tricks become so big that they become visible, right? Like, I just got a car actually, and it's funny actually.
You did?
So Reed is inheriting my 16-year-old Subaru, much to my chagrin. I would have kept it till I died, or it died. But one thing I noticed about the newer cars is as you walk around them, you try to figure out like, okay, where did they cut corners? Like, where was the cost actually cut out of this thing? And you try to notice like where they don't cut the corners, like anything that you can touch, they try to keep okay. But then you open up the hood and you open up the hood and you can see, okay, I see where you cut the corners. Look at all this plastic, right? Mm-hmm. These engine parts are made of plastic, right? The intake, I'm looking at it, okay, that's plastic. So you didn't cut the corners on the things that people can see and feel and smell. You cut the corners in things that people won't even notice, at least not immediately. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents about where one should make cuts if they have to.
Well, what kind of car did you get?
It's a Hyundai. I'm a cheapskate. What can I say?
A gas operated Hyundai?
Hybrid or
it's a hybrid actually. It's a hybrid. I couldn't bring myself to buy a regular gas car anymore. Yeah.
Okay, so that's so good.
What color?
It lasts you a long time.
It's silver.
Nice.
Very boring. Yeah, It's
Once you use your car.
where that's the thing. I don't go anywhere. Yeah. So I didn't even want to get a car, but Reed needs a car of his own because he's becoming a man and everything else, so he can just take my old Subaru.
We have a few questions we do have.
What's that?
No people on?
There are people here.
We've got about 30 people here. Mm-hmm.
Yep,
we've had plenty of questions. You missed the fun stuff, Paul.
Yep.
What's that? How long have you been on?
Almost an hour.
An hour already?
Yeah.
An
Okay.
hour and half hour before schmoozing. First year, what did we do, Adam? 30 credits?
The very first one, it was 30 credits. That was 10 years ago. So that was 30 credits. Yep. And yeah.
Inflation. What happens to the 30 credits?
All right, so nothing terrible seems to be going on here. I'm going to actually let you guys talk amongst yourselves, though, because I want to check out the audio from the perspective of a user out there. So I'm going to put you guys on here. You guys talk amongst yourselves, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
So this is the stuff we have to go through right during the setup day, just to make sure everything works. So I'll be right back.
Good.
Well, I assume that we've gotten the registration thing fixed.
Yeah, that's fixed.
So,
it's working fine. Yep.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
So, Paul, we did have a little, for some reason, registration showed as closed. But we got that straightened out because Jake was Jake on the spot and took care of it. And we talked about the need to take your survey right after you take the class. It's better to do that. That way you'll get your credits faster
Right.
and you remember what was going on. We also talked about quizzes for on-demand classes, and we are very much reiterating, because there has been some confusion, that all 77 credits are available every live weekend. So it isn't 77 divided by 4 that you'll get some this time, some next time. All 77, all 4 weekends.
So how can we put that in writing so that the question isn't always asked? If that is a
You know
frequent
what?
question, we're not making it clear enough.
We can put it in writing until the cows come home and people will still ask the question.
Yep. The more we write, the less they read. Hate to say it. By the way, we always try to promise less and deliver more. Adam had mentioned that he gets this stuff into Arbo in a couple of weeks, which is probably true. But you can get your credits pretty much at the end of the day, if not sooner, in terms of the internal workings of our site, and print out your transcript. And that's something you could use in certain states. For example, Texas has this system where they don't go by the Arbo COPE system. They have to submit the credits themselves. So people download their transcripts, take a picture, and send it in. I believe North Carolina is the same. So every state is a little bit different, and just be aware that you might be able to get your credits very, very quickly. I'm not promising anything, but it's typically what happens unless there's a glitch this year.
So who needs the quick credits? Just a few states where people are taking courses last minute?
Texas, well, Florida doesn't allow anything. North Carolina, I believe one other state, Illinois, I think, went to it. It's called, what's it called?
CE Broker?
Yeah, CE Broker. So they accept COPE credits, but then you can't go through the Arbo site to submit them. You have to submit them directly to them. In Texas, North Carolina, Florida is moot because they don't allow anything online, which is crazy. I live here. I think I'll burn down the state. In Illinois. By the way, what you're seeing in the background is my home right there on the beach. No, it's freezing here.
Breezy.
It's
Florida's
no.
cold?
What?
Florida's
That's
cold?
not real. Florida's as cold as it's ever been below. 42 degrees this morning when I went out. I got the paper in the driveway, and it felt worse because
some of the old ladies wearing mink coats.
No, we live in a younger society.
The younger ones don't have mink coats anymore. The old ladies are the younger ladies.
They wear hoodies.
Right?
They wear hoodies, and at the gym they're wearing nothing.
Okay, guys. Sorry.
That's a show. The men might wear mink stones, but I haven't noticed it yet. But it used to be that when it was 60, 65 degrees, people were out in gloves and hats. Now it really is cold. It feels here, Gretchen, like it might feel on a December day in Philly.
I believe it. Yeah. Well, everything's upside down because of, you guys got snow there and you normally don't. Yeah. And yeah, it's been a wild ride in January, and I'm not even going to start about California.
Yep. Well, we have so much rain that nothing burns here.
All right, guys.
Anyway,
I'm back.
Nobody has any questions. It's surprising how few questions we have, and most of these people I know everybody by heart from the last seminar. That was 4,000, but I don't see too many faces that were. Anybody just volunteer if you're new to CEwire or you're a returnee. You can put it in the chat box. Like.
So it's interesting, Steve. So the bulk of people did take the conference within the last year or two. But we do have some new ones for sure, because I'm getting a lot of questions from people.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually ask questions before this event, right? Because they registered for the conference and they wanted to then know, how do I do this? So that's the kind of question I typically get from people. Hopefully they showed up here at least for a few minutes just to test their accounts.
And Dr. Mina, just for you and all the other speakers, you're welcome to take the courses also. Even your course you're welcome to take. So you get your own CE credits for New Jersey or whatever state you're in. So that's an added perk of being a speaker here.
Yep. And in fact, it's fun when the speakers attend other people's classes because they're still listed as a speaker on the thing, so you can see the speakers go at each other. So that's pretty fun.
That's an Angel. It's the second time registering, first time being able to take the courses. Well, we try to give enough time to take them. So far, I'm surprised that you weren't able to take it last time, but enjoy.
So, yeah, but remember, Steve, so remember when we first started doing this, we only did this, I think, once or twice a year.
Oh, right. She might not be.
Yeah, so the thing has really expanded into being this year-round thing, which we never thought it would be. I certainly never thought it would be. In fact, there were sort of these rhythms of my life where by the time it was over, then baseball season was in full swing. I wouldn't have to think about CEwire for a really long time, and that's not the case anymore. Now it's just year-round.
Dr. Sir Rodriguez did say you're right, Adam. It was years ago.
Yep. So yeah. All right, cool. So I hope we answered some of the questions. So again, I showed people the surveys. I'll put it back up on the screen again so they can see. This page is going to become your friend during the year as the year unfolds. If you ever need to get back to the survey, because seriously, right? Because it's hard. There's so much stuff at CEwire. I felt like we needed to have pages that were like condensed, right? That everyone could see. Like this is all the information that I need if I screw up. It has instructions on here, too, telling you what you need to do, right? Complete the survey. Go to check out your transcript too to make sure that it appears there. So it gives them instructions. And in fact, I made a similar page. Let's see if it's up here yet. I forgot. I've been so harried that maybe I didn't put it up there yet. No, I didn't put it up there yet. I made a similar one for the on-demand lectures. So that'll be available on Monday with direct links to the quizzes.
That's a summary that everyone should know. Can you put on there somewhere important printout rather than have them just keep it on the computer?
So it is actually on the schedule. These links are all available on the schedule. So if people...
But if you think it's that important, if they would have it printed out in front of them.
So look.
They might read it.
See, it's the last page of the schedule. Has all the links on it.
That last page, they don't know it, right?
So anybody who's looking at the schedule will probably print that last page because they just print everything. So they should see it. So this is very important. And again, I email this to people as well after the conference is over. So they have numerous opportunities to see this, hopefully. And most people do fine with it, and they know that this page exists. The asynchronous one is probably going to be more important for people too, because it's very difficult to actually get an overview of all the courses that are being given, but with this one page of asynchronous lectures, you can get an overview and see everything. So I'm going to publish that one on Monday. So they can easily just go down the list, click a link here to start watching, click another link here to get to the quiz, because the asynchronous one has quizzes listed on it. So it's basically going to be like a one-stop shop. If I were taking the conference asynchronously, what I would do is bookmark the asynchronous page whenever it's going to be ready, so they'd always have it throughout the year. You want to take an asynchronous class, go back to that page, find whatever lecture you want, click on it, and go. That's how I would take CEwire if I were doing it. Mm. And maybe what I'll do is tomorrow I'll actually publish that asynchronous page so we can go over it during the live stream too, and we could show it to people. Because that's something that I would bookmark.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yep. It's funny, actually, looking at this page, you really get a sense of how long everything actually takes to produce and why we do need those few months to switch between the prior year's courses and this year's classes, because even just repeating any one of these things 77 times is a nightmare. Like getting everything cataloged and organized and then making the manual links for each one of these things, it takes forever. The courses themselves, like when you actually go watch them this weekend, pay attention to the audio levels of each one. Because when the speakers give me back the video files, I actually have to listen to them because I need to know that the audio levels are similar, right? Because you get some folks who are quieter than others. And what we don't want to have happen is, have audio levels all over the place. When CEwire first started, we did, right? That's just the way it was. But I finally had enough. So since 2021, at least, I've been reviewing each one of the files just to make sure the quality is good enough for people, because there's nothing worse than having audio levels bounce up and down when you're watching TV, right? It's so annoying. and I didn't want that to happen here.
Well, we're grateful for the time that you put into it, Adam. I know it's a pain, but it really does make a difference, because if people know what that's like when you have a different audio level, when you have a commercial or whatever, it's so annoying. So thank you. I know it's a lot of time on your part to do that.
Yep. Yeah.
What
Well,
are
I
the
mean,
features that Audacity has done this year that we aren't seeing to make it more stable, etc.? Because it's going to a newer version, I believe.
yeah. So a lot of the stuff you're not gonna really notice too much of a difference this year in terms of features. It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you're never gonna actually, hopefully, perceive. But the platform will just be much more stable than it was in prior years. But I don't think you're gonna see too many different features. Other than, I'm trying to think of what they did that you might actually notice. The chat seems more responsive to me than last year, and it's already gotten pretty fast, but it seems like right now, just looking at it, it's super fast. I know that what we've stressed, over the past year or two is the performance of the servers themselves, and making sure that, especially at this first show, because the crowd is going to be so huge, we want to make sure that we have enough bandwidth and enough server capacity to handle everybody. And it's always a crapshoot, right? Because you think you know how much you're going to need, but until you actually do it, you don't know. And you may have to crank it up in real time. So we'll see.
This is important. Douglas Kim asked if they're going from their iPhone to the laptop while watching, what happens to the stream? The answer is it should be continuous. But either way, from laptop to iPad, iPhone, etc., just close the link on your laptop, because the program will sense that you're watching it in two different places, and it might give you an error message. So it should be seamless to go from platform to platform, whether it be a tablet to a phone to a laptop or vice versa.
Yep.
That's really important. Having only one tab on your browser open, even if it's another browser, like going from Chrome to Firefox to Safari, wherever, you need to be logged in only one place. Otherwise, you'll get a bunch of errors, because the system senses that and knows, and it'll think that you're trying to watch two different classes at the same time. So make sure that you're logged out at home if you're at the office,
Right.
or log out at the office if you're going to be home, because
Yep.
you don't
Right.
want a nightmare.
And again, it's not, you refer to it as an error, but actually it's not an error, it's a warning. Because it's not that the system's making a mistake, is that it's warning you, it's telling you not to make the mistake. Because Arbo doesn't allow you to be in two places at once, right? And you could see how people might try to game the system, where they're like, all right, I'll open up 4 windows here, and I'll have 4 rooms going, and at the end I'll just take 4 surveys. And so Arbo was like, yeah, you're not doing that. So that's why when the software was built, that was one of the features that we explicitly had built to meet the requirements, so that people wouldn't try to game the system that way. Synchronous means just that. You got to be live, and you got to be engaged with the talk.
But some people altruistically just forget to turn off the tab at the office and go home. And if it's a 45-minute drive, well, because you really have to close that tab to use it in another spot.
And so David actually does ask a question here. I'm being asked to sign in to confirm I'm not a bot. So right. So sometimes when you sign in, you'll get a CAPTCHA. That stupid little puzzle that you have to solve with click all the traffic lights or whatever it is. And that's just because the system suspects, for whatever reason, that you might not be human. And I don't know what criteria it uses to actually, ascertain that. If it's something about the IP address you're coming from, or something about the way you've been browsing. Like, I don't really know why it asks some people and why it doesn't ask others. That would be a good Jake question. I'm not sure, when it decides to put up a CAPTCHA and when it doesn't. So I apologize when it does. It does occasionally for me too. I hate the traffic light thing just as much as you do. Or click all the motorcycles or whatever else it is. But hopefully it won't. Hopefully it won't keep bothering you with that. Hopefully it's just a one-off thing.
Sometimes those CAPTCHA pictures are impossible. You really know what you're doing and you still can't get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that problem with something the other day. It was really irritating.
Yep.
And I wasn't human.
Yep. You were a human, yep.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that we even have to do that, but yeah, it's just the way the world at this point. So yeah, hopefully it won't pester you too much. And I'm trying to see if there's any other questions that people have right now. It looks pretty calm out there, which is just the way we like it. But we will stick around, or at least I will. You guys don't have to feel like you need to stick around here the whole time. But I want to be here till the bitter end because, you know, here on the West Coast, it's not even quitting time yet, right? So people are still in the office. I want to make sure that, you know, we give people on the West Coast time to log in.
Steve has a good point that it's not really, but the idea is if you still don't get it right, it's going to say, do it again, and do it again, and do it again.
Yeah, it's to a human, it's very irritating for sure.
Lisa, other platforms do have a pre-test. She's asking, this one doesn't, and I don't know the reason why they have a pre-test because Arbo COPE doesn't require it, and I don't think any states require it.
So
there's no pre-test.
it's funny. So Arbo, yeah, so Arbo doesn't require a pre-test, but it is one of the things that you can do. So it's one of the options that you have is to give a pre-test and a post-test to try to gauge, did the person improve? And, you know, it's an interesting concept. I'm not sure that I want to put people through it. You know, we try to follow Arbo's rules to the letter. And when they came out with these revised rules, I guess, what was it, in 2023? I don't even remember. We chose the path that most people would find acceptable, right? So when they said synchronous for whatever reason doesn't need a quiz, we're like, okay, we're going to stick with what we're doing then and just give people a survey. But asynchronous requires a quiz, so we'll have a quiz in that context. Now, I know what a lot of people do if they offer synchronous and asynchronous is they do the same thing for both, because technically that's an easier thing to do, right? It would be easier for us to just say, all right, you're taking a quiz no matter what. We don't care when you take this. Synchronous, asynchronous, doesn't matter to us. We only want to do everything once. But what we did was we just looked at the requirements and we're like, what would be the best for our users? And we thought that just having a survey was probably enough for people, particularly because they're sitting here all day. They don't necessarily want to take, you know, 20 quizzes over a weekend, pre and post. So
what
that's just the choice we made.
Also referring to is that I'm the self-appointed watcher. I go to many other seminars, seeing what they're doing, seeing if they're doing it correctly, and I won't get into that. But Adam, what they do is they have a pre-test of, let's say, 10 questions, and some of it are demographic questions, nothing to do with the lectures. And those questions are for all 8, 6, 9 credits. And they pertain somewhat to the lectures, but to all the lectures. And then afterwards you take the post-test. And you have to pass the post-test. And sometimes they'll tell you, when you're taking the post-test, they'll show you the answers that you put were wrong. And so it gets pretty easy to figure out what the answers are right. So I think Dr. Anderson is correct in that some do it that way, but it's not specific for each course, and some of them. Some do have it for each course.
Yep. And so a question here about the opioid classes. So here's the easiest thing for me to show you. So I should have marked it on the calendar, on the schedule, but I didn't because I figured it was sort of self-evident. If you actually look at the calendar, the opioid classes are all clustered together on Sunday in track which? Track Gimel, wait, Sunday, track 2. So if you look at Sunday track 2, everything from 12 o'clock onward on Sunday in room 2, that's all narcotic, starting at 12:10 and then going all the way to the bitter end. So room 2, Sunday, is the narcotic track. If that makes sense.
And Dr. Cameron, I wish we could designate that, but COPE-Arbor has no suffix that says narcotics. They have suffixes that say pH pharmaceuticals or orals or something like that. They don't have that, therefore we can't put it after the lecture. We try to put the COPE designation. And well, that's unfortunate. Maybe they should do that, but they haven't.
Well, I'll you know, it's even worse than that actually, because if you look at one of our lectures here, see this? That's an opioid lecture that COPE didn't even label as a pharmaceutical lecture. They called it a public health lecture. And despite the fact that it covers the same material, right? There's a lot of stuff about the different narcotics. It also had a public health twist to it because it's a 2-hour-long lecture. So she had a lot of time to talk about different things. So Arbo was like, you know what, we're going to call this one public health. And I'm like, fine, I don't care because the DEA doesn't care, right? They don't care about Arbo's designations for each one of the classes, but I thought that was interesting that they wouldn't even declare this one as pharmaceutical, it was public health.
And to go further, some states require oral credits. There's no specific oral designation in Arbo. So you have to look on the PH for pharmaceuticals, or sometimes it's just a lecture. It's obviously an oral lecture. In fact, all the narcotics lectures, except for the public health one, have to be orals, just by the very fact that narcotics are typically oral.
Yep. By the way, while we're here, I'll let people know track 3 is the glaucoma track. And it's not perfect because a couple of other non-glaucoma lectures kind of oozed into that track. But if you stick in room 3, you'll notice that there's a lot of glaucoma here on both days. So just be aware of that. I'm sure everyone would have figured that out as soon as the conference started. I tried to cluster the similar things together.
Any of the speakers have questions? Brand new speakers? Are they confident they can handle everything?
Yeah,
I think it's
we did
fairly
have
easy
people
for
in
them.
here earlier who had questions, but it wasn't any of our speakers. Our speakers seem to be knowing what's what, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And by the way, we do try to rotate our speakers, and we always get newbies. So we have probably about 10 new speakers this year. And next year we'll do the same thing and bring back some old favorites that rotated out of the schedule just because they've been on for so long. We try to keep everything fresh, even the speakers.
In fact, I mentioned that in one of my public service announcements that runs before the classes. I talk about the speaker selection, and the idea is that we want to always have a good mix, right? And that we want to promote younger folks as well. It's really important to us to get sort of diverse voices. We want the younger people who maybe haven't had a chance or an opportunity to speak at a lot of things. If they want to give it a shot, we're always willing to let people come in. And so that's why sometimes you'll see some new names here that you might not be familiar with, that, you know, everyone had to start somewhere. So we always have a certain proportion of people that we want that are younger and new. So if you know folks who are younger and, you know, just getting involved with this, and you think they might want to speak, send them our way, again, because we're always willing to give people a chance.
Dr. Brown, who is a new speaker, has an interesting question. How did she interact with her audience? During the lecture, you'll be doing this text chat just like we're doing now, and you can present new content, you can answer questions, etc. You also have a thread on ODwire in perpetuity, in fact, where you can interact with your audience, and if they have questions, they can go there. So it's not done via voice as we're doing it now. It's done via text chat while your lecture is going on and thereafter. I assume you've given them your email or something like that, and you do have a thread on ODwire to continue the conversation for as long as you want.
Yep, the thread is actually quite useful, and I'm hoping that people make more use out of it this year. I think I'm going to personally try to push it because the thread, first of all, is private, which is really important. So, you know, one of the things about social media that's been such a curse is the fact that it's become very performative and public, and the CEwire threads are completely different, right? Because they're in a spot where the public can't see them, and even people who didn't take your lecture can't see them, right? It's only for folks at CEwire. So I'm hoping that the thread area becomes a place where people will feel comfortable interacting with each other, because you're not going to get people posting there who just like to hear the sound of their own voice, which, sorry, Dad, you know, with what goes on ODwire, I watch. Like a lot of people just want to hear themselves talk. That's not it. I mean, with the threads on CEwire, you know, the audience is strictly limited to the 3,000 or 4,000 people who, you know, actually wanted to take your class. So it's a really good place to post new information. Like Steve, I'm sure as your AI stuff gets updated, you know, that's a place to put it. Because
Daily.
you know that, you know, throughout the year, because you know that people are going to get pushed back there when they take your class, you know, for the 3rd or 4th CEwire, they can always refer to it. So yeah, I'm hoping it becomes a place that's used more this year.
And Dr. Brown in the audience, you should be aware that this is actually a better way of interacting than a live lecture, because during a live lecture, you don't want to interrupt the speaker, raise your hand, etc. Here, people are interacting while the lecture is being played. So you're not interrupting yourself and you're still answering questions, etc. So I think in ways the online format, synchronous is a better format than being at a lecture live.
Yep.
But when 27 people at the end of the lecture come over to you and have a line of questions, well, been there.
So on my email just now, you have another promotion that just came up?
Oh yeah, I just sent out. Yep. I sent out a final email to everyone.
Tomorrow, last chance to get an annual pass with a $60 pre-conference discount. As of tomorrow, our prices go up $60?
Yeah, so in theory, yes. In practice, I may not have time to get to it in the morning. So it'll happen though. So I urge people, and always on that the actual day of, we usually get, again, another couple dozen people signing up. But I urge people to actually, try to register. What I tried to make a point in that email was a lot of people still don't understand that the conference has all the credits throughout the year, right? So the 77 credits are being given 4 times. So even if they can't make it to this weekend's talks, if they think they want to sign up in the future for the other ones this year, signing up now is a good deal because the discount's still there.
We have 2 speakers here now, Dr. Quinn, Dr. Brown.
People that took the course before?
What's that?
The mailing that I just received, these are people that have taken the courses before?
Yeah, so that email just went out to anybody who's taken a CEwire before.
Okay.
Yep. I'm not big on trying to annoy people who don't want to hear from me. So, because I think we're all sick of that, right? We're sick of getting deluged with mail. I try to be really selective about who I send emails out to. And certainly the people who've taken CEwire before, at least we have some sort of pre-existing relationship. I know who they are. They know who we are. So when I send them an email, at least I don't feel like I'm just, crushing their mailbox.
Just answering a question here. Somebody actually emailed me directly.
Oh, and Dr. Quint asked a question here, will I be on camera for my course? You will not be, you just answer via chat. So that's an interesting point too. A lot of people feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this for 4 weekends. It's such a hassle to get all, ready for it. But the reality is, because it's just text chat, you don't have to feel like you have to get gussied up and, have to put together a whole to-do like we have here. It's just text chat. And in fact, a lot of the speakers who do CEwire year in and year out, they just, they do it from their couch, right? Laptops in their lap, they're sitting on the couch, and it's a very easy thing. It's very casual because the cameras are off.
Having said that, though, some speakers choose to keep the video on when they produce their lecture, and you might see them speaking at that time, but it's not live. It's what they did during the
right. And in fact, Dr. Quint is one such person. She did a really good job. She had, a very good AV setup. So props to you, Dr. Quint. I always love seeing that. As someone who has to actually edit all this video that comes back, when somebody actually has a good setup, it's really helpful to actually producing things faster. So thank you for that. And Dr. Quint, you can come in, 10 minutes, come in 5 or 10 minutes before your room, just so you know that you can log in. Although the reality is, you're logged in here right now. You're typing, which means your account works. So, I would say if you're using the same computer tomorrow, you're good. You can just show up a couple minutes beforehand and you'll be fine. Yeah, my biggest concern, and the reason that I always want people to come to this little orientation or whatever this is because I want them to test their accounts. So Kristen has a great question. Does the login take you to your room? So when you log in on that first page, let me see if I can actually put it up here on the screen for people so you can see it. When you just go to the main page when you log in, there's a link on the left side of the screen. I'm going to actually show this to everybody. So there's like an Inception thing going on here, right? Where you're seeing a window inside of a window inside of a window on your screen, but that's okay. So on the left side of the screen, you can see these links. Just choose the room that you need to go to get to your class, right? Or if you feel like coming back to the lobby, you can just come to the lobby room, which will be running right there too, if that makes sense. And there are other links below, as you can see as well. Different places you can go, things you can download and so forth. But yeah, the rooms will always be on the left side here. And you just click on the room to enter it. See if I'm going to blow everything up here. So if you want to leave a room, all you need to do is click on the back button, and that'll take you back out to that main room where you can then choose a different room. Pretty straightforward.
And Dr. Quinn, Dr. Brown, you're welcome to take as much CE as you want yourselves during the conference.
Yep. And it looks like the timer is right too. I always, that's probably a good thing to check, right? To make sure it actually has the times right. So 14 hours, 40 minutes from now. Yeah, that's about right.
Yep.
Look at that, the computer can count.
Getting better than us.
All right, cool. Yeah, this should be fun. I have high hopes for this one. Just for those who haven't been here yet, you know, like Jesselyn or Kristen, the first one of these things is always the most anxiety provoking, right? Because we just set up the platform again. We've set up the computers. They're all set up. All the data's been loaded. We're hoping all the speakers can log in, but we don't know, right? Because it's the first one of the year. So this first one is always the most nervous I get. But so far so good today. The technology seems to be working fine. You know, knock wood. We'll see how it goes tomorrow.
So you want us here at 9 o'clock Eastern tomorrow?
Yeah,
You're gonna
sure.
open it up at 9:30 Eastern?
Yep, yeah, so tragically, yes. So for those of us on the West Coast, we know this is very early, but yes, try to get there then and we'll set all this fun stuff up and yeah.
Lectures do start though at 10 a.m. Eastern time, just for everybody to be aware.
Correct, yeah, so lectures start at 10 a.m. Eastern. The lobby will be open at 9:30 Eastern time. So this area that you're in right now will be reopened with us sitting here yakking away. You're probably going to actually see a much bigger crowd here actually in the morning tomorrow of people waiting to get into the room. So it's kind of fun, that little first hit before everything gets started. And of course, it's always the first ones where we keep our fingers crossed and hold our breath that everything starts working properly. So if you want to see a bunch of people being really anxious, this is the place to be tomorrow morning.
Dr. Alexander is
coffee.
excited.
Yeah.
Dr. Alexander is one of our speakers, and you'll be shocked when you go to your room and there's 450 people there. You won't see them, but they're there.
Yep. So one of the questions that someone actually had for me, one of the participants was, do I have to register to get into a class, like each individual class? And the answer is no. One of the great parts about being digital is that the room is not of a fixed size, right? So the software is designed to scale to as much as we possibly need. And I'm trying to think, I think the most we ever had in one room was about 1,400 people or 1,500 people.
Yep.
And again, the software doesn't care, right? It scales. So that's what's so great about this. You don't have to worry about that. As long as we've scaled the servers properly, you know, we can have an infinite number of people in a room.
Yep.
I've been trying to do this in 1995.
So it's funny you mentioned that actually, because even from the time that we started doing this 10 years ago, the tech has actually gotten a lot faster, not just like the bandwidth or whatever else, but like the processing side of things. So the machines that I use to actually process the videos that people send me and create the public service announcements and all of the fun stuff, it's gotten so much faster, which is why I was like thinking to myself, God, could I do more than 77 hours? The answer is probably, because reprocessing one of those videos takes the system about 10 minutes, give or take. And in the old days, an hour of video would take almost an hour to actually process. It was almost like a 1-to-1 ratio. Now it's between 5 and 10 minutes. So it's definitely gotten faster.
Well, maybe next year we'll replace you with some AI agent. I'll try to create one.
I'd love to see that. If it would like to put me out of a job, I'm more than willing. And
Dr. Brown,
so,
the COPE credits are tracked automatically. We send them into COPE. It takes about 2 weeks, but people could pretty much see their credits almost the day of. And we take care of it. You don't have to do anything. We do that for you, as well as obviously get the COPE numbers.
Right. So yeah, as Steve said, we send the credits in for you, and the system automatically tracks that you're watching the lecture. And if you fill out the post-course survey at the end, then it knows, okay, you filled out the post-course survey, you sat here for the last 40 minutes, I'm going to automatically give you a check mark. This is now on your transcript, which you can then look at as the conference unfolds over the course of the year. You'll have a transcript on our system that you can always look back at, and we send those credits into Arbo. So whatever is on your official transcript, which again, I'll send you links to after the conference is over on Monday, everyone will have this email showing them where to go to get their transcript, what to do if there's a problem, and then just know that that's going into Arbo later in the week. So we try to make the system as automated as possible. And Sean has a question, how do you get into a class tomorrow morning? This is his first time. So again, I'll go over that for you, Sean. If you look up on my screen right now, this is the page that you went to when you logged in today. All you have to do is go to that left menu and click whichever room it is that you want to go to watch a lecture. I'd recommend downloading and printing the course schedule. So you can see there's a link to the January schedule right there. Have that with you throughout the weekend. And then at whatever the time you're looking at, just pick the room that you want to go to, and the lecture will automatically start and play. And again, the system will monitor you to make sure that you're there. At the end, you take the post-course survey. And if those two conditions are met, it'll issue you a credit. And everything that I just said, by the way, there are public service announcements that are going to run before each one of the talks. I think I made 5 of them this year, 5 different ones, so people wouldn't get bored. But it reviews all of that stuff again as well. So yeah, by the end of it, in fact, you're going to get so sick of hearing my voice because it's the same thing over and over and over again. It's almost like Regal Cinema, right? The stupid thing in the beginning with the roller coaster. It's like you've seen it how many times in your life, but it's the same idea, right? That you know, once you've seen it, you'll understand it. It's a very easy process. I think this time, though, public service announcement number 5 is a little bit controversial. So everyone be on the lookout for it.
I'm intrigued.
Yes. Also, it gives you a little buffer of time when the lecture will start, so you can take the survey even during that public service announcement. And it even takes a minute or so, so no worries about that.
Yep. So yeah, you'll get in the flow. I think the biggest hurdle people have is, or the fear they have is that they're not going to be able to figure it out. But you'll see that it's simple. And once you get in the flow of watching, taking a survey, watching, taking a survey, you'll see it's incredibly easy. And we do give you 5-minute breaks in between each class specifically because we want to give you time, first of all, because you got to go to the bathroom. I mean, think about it. This is like an all-day thing, right? So we give you time so you can actually escape and go do something else for a few minutes, but also time to take the surveys right after the lecture's done. When we first started doing this 10 years ago, it was a back-to-back-to-back thing, and I'm like, no. that's just brutal. Like, that's just not nice.
As
So,
a matter of fact, you're older now, so you know it takes longer in the bathroom too.
yeah, that's a good point, right? You get more sympathetic as you get older, I suppose.
So
But yeah, we do want to give those breaks because they really are necessary, and they definitely help. Because, you know, it's a 10 or 11 hour day, right? So it's really helpful to have that little bit of downtime in between.
Dr. Bloom asked an interesting question. If you did a course
about an hour. And then
wait, what?
You're going to be live to answer questions the first hour or two, and then you're going to go on with webinars. What are you doing for the rest of the day?
I don't know. I'm going to see where the day takes me. We'll see what kind of shape I'm in. We'll figure it out, and we'll see how much help people need, right? So who knows? But Steve, you were asking, so
Dr.
how
Bloom
much? Yep. Oh yeah, I see
Dr.
it.
Bloom has
How
a
much
question.
time? Oh,
If he's
yeah,
in
so
a room and doesn't like the lecture, how much time does he have to go to another one? The software gives a few minutes buffer, 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, so I would say you're safe if you switch out after maybe 5 minutes, but don't do it any longer than that, right? You need to be in the other lecture. So yeah, give yourself 5 minutes or so. But try to pick the class and not leave if you can. So yeah, that's the best piece of advice I can give you. The more time that you're in the classroom, the more likely it is that the credit's going to count. Yep. And again, so Steve, you just answered another question about phones. So again, Sean, it's critically important that if you're going to start watching on your phone, you first close out the browser windows on your computer before you leave, right? Close those out, then open them on your phone. Don't have both open at the same time, because the system will start complaining about two windows being open at once and not issue you credits for the class that you're in. And again, that's a safety mechanism that the software has to prevent people from opening up 4 windows and watching 4 different classes at once and getting credit for 4 classes that ran at the same time. Arbo can and does audit these events, right? They do have auditors sometimes come in. A lot of times I don't know who the auditors are. And they check for stuff like that, right? They want to make sure that people aren't trying to get away with shenanigans, especially at an event like ours, which is huge, right? We have several thousand people here. It's basically Vision Expo sized. And so they want to make sure that whatever we're doing is on the up and up. So that's why the software checks. So if you do want to go out to an iPhone, just make sure you close out that browser completely on your main PC before you open up the iPhone. And vice versa, by the way. If you're watching on an iPhone, you finally come home, put that iPhone away, close the tab out on the iPhone completely, and then start your PC's tab. So hope that makes some sense.
Any more questions? As the conference goes on, it's fairly easy to see how to do it, especially after the first hour, but everybody has a little bit of anxiety before they start, even people that have done it before.
Yep. And again, the great part about it is you're going to be in these classrooms with hundreds of your peers, and that chat window like you have right now is going to be open, and people like to help each other. And Steve will also be running around to different classrooms. Gretchen does the same thing. So someone's always going to be around to answer the questions. Or you can always come back to the lobby here too, where I spend most of my time helping people. So we'll be here to help you out. So again, it's usually the first couple hours. Once you get into the groove, you'll be totally fine with it.
I'm glad that we're getting these questions. This is helpful to know what isn't clear to folks or what might need more clarification. So
Yep.
yeah, keep these questions coming. That's why we're here.
Yep.
The funny thing, I always think we send out too much reading matter because it's just so much to know. But if we put all this other stuff in, it would be people just aren't going to read it and they'll forget what to do. So it's good to just interact with us. But again, we're here tomorrow and the next day to get back to you. And it's usually pretty rapid, especially if you post something in the lobby.
Yeah, and I just created another e-blast actually that goes out tomorrow morning, reminding people that, oh, by the way, the lectures are starting. And it's also got a lot of that information in it with, make sure you stay in one room, make sure you take the survey and all that fun stuff. So we try to repeat it over and over again. And for the most part, people do get it. I think the support problems are a little bit overblown when they happen. Like I feel it acutely when somebody has a problem. And sometimes I feel like, oh my God, the world's ending here. But then I realize it's like, oh, right, there are 3,000 people or 4,000 people at the conference. So if 10 are having a problem, to me, it feels like, oh my God, it's a disaster. But the reality is if only 10 people are contacting me with a problem, that means everybody else is probably doing okay. So,
yep.
But that's why we're here, though, that we're here to answer questions, right? This is literally our function during the live event. So yeah, not too much else going on here. Let's put up the slides for people to see a little bit. Again, I can thank our sponsors too, who will also be here roaming around. I'm not sure what they have going on promotionally. So Gretchen, maybe you could reach out to them tonight or whatever, just to see what's going on. I know with Visionics, we're going to be, as Paul mentioned, playing a bunch of webinars that we did with them. We actually did a webinar with them last night all about coding for OCTA, which is interesting now that there's a new code that's available. So we're going to definitely play that one back so people can see it.
That was really interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting and surprising. I think people will like the lecture when they watch it again. So yeah, I kind of feel like if if I had a practice and I were in the market for one, this would probably be the time that I would be jumping onto an OCTA. Since the reimbursements probably are never going to be higher than they are right now, right? I mean, isn't that the way it always goes? It's always just like, you know, start high and go low. So, yeah.
Dr. Konevsky, you've never had a disaster here.
So, so, and I have to say, Viola, thank you for showing up and doing this again this year. You've been a really, your lectures are, I want to say, the standard by which others should be judged, because they make me laugh every single time. Like, so I think anyone who's listening to this should stop and watch her lectures, even if pediatrics aren't necessarily your thing. Definitely take a look at her lectures, because the production values are incredibly high. They're always fun and always different, and it's not just a PowerPoint. So thank you for doing that.
For the puppets, if not for anything else.
Yeah, I mean, her lectures are, I can't even imagine how much time it takes you to actually put these together. I hope you have somebody assisting you, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, we have a few really animated lectures. I don't want to designate them. I'll let you decide for yourself, but some people put a lot of work into it, have a whole production team, in fact. Yep. And others, everybody is good, but there's good, better, and best.
Slave puppets, yeah. Viola's workshop. Yeah, so it was interesting. We this year, the AV production values, and this is something that I noticed because I have to sit with all the videos, the production values are definitely getting better over time. And I think that's just a natural consequence of people having better technology in their homes. It's very obvious, like when you look at people's talking head things, a lot of people are using high frame rate cameras, which is something that they didn't have before, but now most webcams are fairly advanced and they can do high frame rates, or the microphones that people are using are better. And again, it's just because by default now they're getting better, at least since the pandemic. So the quality of the lectures is definitely going up from an AV perspective. So I definitely appreciate that. You know, we still get the odd corner cases where somebody did their lecture in a wind tunnel or something. Like, it happens. And I'm listening to this and I'm like, oh no. What we try to do is actually fix up all the audio before it ever gets to, you know, folks who are watching it. So Steve, actually, your lecture, again, you were one of the ones who I liked it because you had like a very large, you know, the video of yourself was very large, right? You didn't just make yourself into a little tiny dot. You actually made yourself big, so it felt a little more immersive. So those are kind of fun, but you didn't actually obscure your slides, which is the other half of this, right? Sometimes people try to make themselves immersive, but they don't realize what they're doing is they're covering up half their slides, and people hate that. So there's a fine line, and Steve actually did a good job where he didn't actually cover up any of his slides with himself, so that was actually quite nice.
Sorry, Dr. Konevsky, you're going through the tunnel. You have to pay an extra $9 now.
Yeah, you know, we laugh about that, but some people are truly like, they are in environments where they have to record their lecture, where they don't have a headset, so they're speaking right into a laptop, and they honestly, like, I think someone's actually like grinding a lens next to them or something. Like, it is just ridiculous. I'm like, what is going on here? So what we actually have to do is take that, and you know, I don't want them to have to go through the misery of recording a lecture. So we do whatever we can to actually try to fix the audio for them. So occasionally it's challenging. Fortunately, the tech to repair audio has gotten so much better over the last decade that it's much less of a hassle.
What's gotten better also is even for lack of better, senior doctors weren't senior 10 years ago, and some have been with us the whole time, and they are tech savvy. So some people, there's very few people in society now that aren't IT savvy to the point they're producing a PowerPoint presentation. And the ones that aren't, they're not going to see CEwire.
Yeah, and we do have a couple of guys who've been with us for a long time who still sometimes have trouble making the recordings, and they actually ask me to do it with them. And I've done it, and I will do it because I like what they're talking about, and I want to make sure that they're not wasting their time, right? Because I think we've all had the experience of trying to record something and you're halfway through and you realize, oh my God, this wasn't actually recording, right? Or the cap was on the lens. So
Oopsie.
for those folks, I actually will step in and take an hour or two and work with them remotely to record the lecture for them. And I actually take those recordings myself so that I know I have a copy of it that's good, so that I just don't want to waste their time. But as you said, Steve, that's few and far between these days.
I wish PowerPoint had a feature like Google Drive does. Like if you make a change and you don't like it, you go back one step. You could
Yeah.
you could do the whole lecture, Gretchen, and on your last slide, you want to just delete that particular video or audio because you don't like it, and you deleted everything. And you have to go back to the beginning, and you can't say, "Oh, I just want to go back one step." It just doesn't have that capability. Except you really can't.
No.
PowerPoint is miserable in so many ways and backwards in so many ways. Exporting a video from PowerPoint, honestly, it's a trip back to 1997. Because when you do the export, you're looking at this and you're like, oh my God, this isn't multi-threaded. Like they are using a single thread of the CPU, which it takes forever. Even on I have sitting next to me one of the fastest CPUs in a machine that you can buy today. It still takes 15 minutes for PowerPoint to export a video using this machine.
And I'm like, PowerPoint?
So PowerPoint's sort of considered the industry standard that everyone knows for doing presentations. For younger folks, using Google Slides is probably the most popular thing these days. And that's just because when you're doing a group project these days, you use web-based tools because you can collaborate more easily with your peers, right? So for instance, when Reed does something at school with a presentation and he's doing it with a group, they'll almost always use Google Slides because it's just so much easier to collaboratively edit versus PowerPoint, which is a file that sits on your desktop. So it's just it's a different paradigm.
Angel says Prez. What's that out of?
Yep.
Prezi.
So yeah.
Oh,
So
Prezi. Yep.
Prezi's nice. So Prezi actually is really pretty. So yeah, but for students and Canva, yeah, Canva's also great. For students though, what I'm noticing, and I guess because schools are cheap, right? They all have access to the Google Suite. It's become almost like the standard. So kids coming out of school today all know how to do stuff with Google Docs and Google Sheets and Google presentations. So in fact, when I work with younger folks, a lot of times that's the way they want to do it, and that's fine with me. We'll use those tools. So we just kind of meet people where they are. But yeah, Prezi's great, and if you're willing to use that too, that's pretty cool. We had somebody. Yep.
I do it that way. I look at each slide and then I go. And if I had to do it stream of consciousness, I would need notes in front of me to make it seamless. So you're right. That's one thing PowerPoint does too.
Yep. And Viola, by the way, like Keynote is one of the great tragedies of tech, in that Apple just kind of let it rot. You know, it still works and it's still great software, but like they just let it sit there over the last decade. They haven't, they haven't done much with it, which to me is a tragedy because it's just great. It's a great piece of software for what it did, and I'm just surprised that they haven't tried to update it, for sort of the more connected world that we have to make collaborative editing on it better. So one of my disappointments with Apple, I almost wonder, like, if you get assigned to like the Apple Sheets team or the Apple Keynote team, are you like considered one of their worst employees or something? And it's like punishment because they just don't keep it updated. It's crazy.
I still have it on my phone. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. These are really interesting tips from our speakers.
Right. And so Steve used OBS. So he's actually using streaming software. So OBS is very similar to the package that I'm using right now to stream all of this out. The one that I use is a professional one that's a little more expensive than OBS just because we needed all these other features. But OBS is if you're a game streamer, right? That's kind of what you use. But it is also really good for presentations. And Steve, the reason that I don't use OBS here is because actually setting up complex scenes with it, it was too much for me. I'm like, it's just too hard to do. The layering and stuff was too difficult. So I use vMix. That's what we're using here to actually do the stream right now. So yeah, but OBS is a really great tool. if I were a little bit younger and could still actually play games competitively, it's what I would probably be using to stream most of my stuff.
Yeah. I was really worried because my fourth slide was an AI created video. I'm sure you've seen it, Adam. And I was worried if I start on slide 1 through 3 and then go to 5, that it wouldn't play seamlessly, but yet it did. I had no idea what I would do if it didn't.
Yep. Yeah, and it's, in fact, sometimes PowerPoint butchers things like that. And I noticed that in some people's presentations where the videos, they were supposed to have audio attached to that video, it didn't come through. There were just, stuff like that. It's mind-boggling that in 2025 we're still dealing with problems like that.
Mm-hmm. It's great. This is the first time I think we've had this much speaker interaction in our night before.
I love it. I think it's great. People sharing tips, and now Steve is teasing us with his audio software. And so not only are we having some of our rookie speakers, rookie to us, that is, speakers, but we also have folks who have been with us over a few iterations. So yeah, this is really, really great. Thanks, everybody. I'm so glad you're here.
As you know, Gretchen, the speakers are very competitive. They want to make sure that they had the most people listening and the most positive surveys, etc. So they really take it to heart.
Well, wait till next week when I can start putting together my first top 10 list of 2025.
Yeah, we can see what happens. So here's an interesting thing. If you guys want some inside baseball, hopefully none of our enemies are here. My
all
long
20
enemy,
of us,
my long enemy list. But here's some interesting things. One thing that I was thinking about from, like I said, we're going to have 3,000 people here tomorrow, or probably more actually, now that the, registration works again and people are now registering like crazy. When you look at how the number doesn't really make a lot of sense mentally, right? Because you think about when you go to a conference like Expo, what does 3,000 people in a room look like, right? I mean, even in the biggest rooms there, the keynotes, they're not 3,000 people. This is a massive amount of people to actually sit in on a lecture. So it's kind of a cool thing. And I was hearing actually, again, this is just scuttlebutt, so take it for what it's worth. Could be true, could be false. Vision Expo East not doing so well with the registrations. And a couple of the speakers said their classes hadn't filled up yet. So, and when I say hadn't filled up, each one of the rooms at Expo holds 90 people. So to give you a sense,
when is Expo?
It's a month from now.
Do you think it's because of CECO being so close, or the change in venue? Both.
Well, I don't know, and I'm not even sure, as we were talking before we went on the air here, I want to go to one of them, but I'm not even sure which one I should go to. And I think a lot of people are paralyzed like me, because I don't know which one is going to be okay and which one's going to be the dud. And I know a lot of people aren't going to both, so what do you do?
I'm noticing that Vision Expo is sending out a lot more e-blasts.
Yep. A little, Gretchen, my wife is coming because she's going to visit some friends, etc. And I got her a free registration. I tried to, but I registered her after the free registration period. So I contacted them and I said, gee, I got it for free. How come she didn't? They said, oh, it's past the registration period. Well, we'll give it to her for free. So they're desperate. In other words, she was way past the time when she could, but they still said, hey, it's a warm body, we'll get them in.
Yep. Yeah, so, and Viola just made a really good point. So they're running a competitive thing in New York, sort of like, instead of calling it New York Fashion Week, it's called New York Vision Week. And so it was just a bunch of, I think a bunch of the frame companies, Viola would probably know better than me, who put together a small CE conference, filling the hole that Expo East, when they left. So this is, I think it's in Midtown, right? It's in Times Square or something, but it's obviously much smaller. Mm-hmm. But I think that they're banking on the fact that New Yorkers do not want to go to Orlando around spring break time. It sounds like an ordeal to me.
New Jersey or Connecticut. Yeah. And by the way, I was obviously there every year from my start of my career, even at the old Opti Fair in the Hilton. And my staff would go buy frames. And the frames were all over the place. So they're correct. It was a big frame. I would kick the high-tech stuff and see them for lunch or something. So frames are a big deal. So if they're not coming, well,
Yeah.
I have
I
a
mean,
feeling that that Vision Expo is going to be changing in the future just because of this move. I understand why they did it, but I don't think it was a smart idea.
Which
Orlando
average
is a
just,
very, very different destination,
mhm.
and yeah, I mean, in
Are
fact, I
the
wouldn't be
frame
surprised if
manufacturers
it.
overseas people, by and large, are they the
I
ones
wouldn't
that?
be surprised if it goes back to New York or if they stick only to a Vegas option in the fall.
yeah.
Or maybe New York in May, not March.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm heavily leaning towards not going to Orlando and going to Seco. But again, I don't know. Is anybody going to be at Seco? Like, I don't
I'll
know.
be there. I'll get a lot of free lunches because nobody else
Yeah.
lectures.
So I guess we have
For
to.
me,
I have
it's
to
a
make
3 hour
I
drive.
have to make a decision soon. But I think a lot of people, and especially people west of the Mississippi, like me, like you look at this and you're like, "There's no way in hell I'm going to both of these things," and I frankly don't even want to go to one of them.
2
But
weeks apart, that's crazy.
yeah, so it's challenging, and I wonder, what the vendors are thinking too, right? Because this is really expensive stuff for them to do. They
Yeah.
don't want to do both. So even though they don't want to.
What's
But
the
they
The
all
best?
fact that they're just
so
on top
close
of
to each
each
other.
other
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
help at all. And I realize that that's just a 2025 problem, but still, I think that's going to stick in people's minds. And it will be very interesting to see in 2 to 3 years' time how the landscape of in-person meetings is changing because we still haven't seen all of the fallout yet from the
Mhm.
pandemic of people changing their perspectives, changing what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, we're still only a few years out of COVID, and all of that hasn't shaken out yet. So it'll be
And
interesting, that's for sure.
Dr. Konevsky, another factor is that with private equity, a lot of large group of optometry and ophthalmology groups together, they're going directly to them and not to these conferences, all the vendors, and making deals with offices of 15, 20, 25 docs.
Yep.
Um, Now, Gretchen, let's forget about the attendees. Let's think about the speakers. Could you take off time from your office one time and then 2 weeks later take off time? It gets very challenging.
Yep. Yeah. So for a lot of reasons, I think that there's going to be a reckoning. But it's interesting though. Expo West still hangs on as a very popular conference, and I wonder if that's just going to be sort of like the thing that Expo at least hangs their hat on, right?
Well, that's when you want to meet vendors, right, for the following year.
Yeah.
Anything
And
that early into the year now, vendors have excuses. No,
right.
not to.
So in the fall, the budgets haven't been made yet, and so on and so forth. So if you're going to talk to a vendor, that's probably a good time. Also, people are in more of a buying mood because of the tax benefits of buying a piece of equipment at the end of the year. So, I would think that Expo West would be a good place if you're interested in buying something. That's a good show to go to.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. I don't know. But anyway, I can't decide which one to go to. And Gretchen, you haven't helped me. Yeah, you got to help me.
Well, I'll hold the fort down for V if you can't go. I have
Yeah,
all the,
I have to help you.
you got to
You
help
aren't
me.
going to listen to me even if I tell you which one to go to.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. You have better insight than me as to where everyone's going to be. Although, as I learned, one of our
What's a
vendors.
direct flight? Is there a direct flight
There is,
Portland,
but
nothing.
to Atlanta?
there are direct
Portland?
flights. There are direct flights to both places. But here's the thing: it's spring break time, and spring break in Orlando. So, like, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, do I really want to fight, like, all of these kids and families and everything else, and fly across the country, or should I go to
But Adam,
a really boring place like Atlanta, where no one wants to be, probably
Adam,
cheaper?
a flight to Orlando is like a flight to Vegas, no matter the time of year. You
That is
always
true.
have a bunch of families and kids. The Orlando airport sucks, regardless of the time of year, just because of the vast number of people who go there. So, yeah.
Yeah, it sucks actually for a variety of reasons. I remember being trapped there for several hours once with my son when he was younger. He was like maybe 7 or 8. And I just thought to myself, like, for a place like Orlando, shouldn't the airport have like fun things for kids to do? Because you know you're going to have these kids trapped there, right? Shouldn't they? I mean,
Absolutely.
Portland
Yeah,
Airport,
but
at least
who's
they
going to
make an
pay
effort.
for it? If
Yeah,
you can have a retail space that will bring in revenue or a free play space, what are you going to do?
I mean,
That's why there's a
Portland-
Disney store right next to security.
oh, I get it. I get it. But I was just always shocked by how bad that airport was for what it is. I'm like, come on. It's like Orlando,
and
the
in
happiest
Vegas,
place
the
on
kids
earth.
play the little slots.
Yeah.
I hate the Vegas airport for that reason. I mean, from the time you step off the plane until you step back on it to go home, all you hear is ying, 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 ying.
That's part of the
For what,
charm.
that is not charm for me. That is not charm. Now, I mean, look at us. We're jaded. I mean, how many times have we been to Vegas?
Right.
Probably more times than we want to have been there. But we're not the average, the average customer that they're aiming toward.
That's true. Although I like going back to Vegas because they make things easy. That's the one thing that Vegas knows how to do probably better than any other large city in the country. They try to make things easy for people who are there. So I think the vendors
want your
appreciate
money.
it too. Yeah, but it's nice. It's a good trade because everything
Well,
about the whole experience of going in and out of Vegas and staying there is easy.
but you like it because one, it's an easy flight for you. Two, it's within your time zone. And
That's
it's
true.
a short flight and it is a non-connecting flight.
Yep. Yeah, there are lots of reasons to like going to Vegas for people on the West Coast for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of like me and Steve when he was in New Jersey full time, me and Steve going to Orlando. We may not want to be in that particular town, but it's an easy flight. There's no time zone change, so it's kind of the same thing.
It's more
Yep.
time waiting at the airport than the flight time.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, I have nothing to add. I'm going to take off. Temperature outside, it's 17 degrees.
Oy, 17.
With
Oh,
the
it's
wind chill,
21
it's gonna be
here, but
0.
let's see. What's with the wind chill?
Oh my gosh.
0.
It's been cold. Oh, no,
Wait.
it's 20 degrees and it feels like 18 here, Paul. So,
Yikes.
Just
yeah.
stay indoors. Anyway, I'll see you in the morning. I will be cutting out at 10:30 your Eastern time. So
All right. Sounds good.
I'll see
Well,
you
we will.
first thing in the morning.
All right.
We'll see you in the
we'll
morning,
then.
Paul.
Look here. You will see the temperature of 52 degrees in Boca.
We can't see it, Steve, because of your background, but I believe you.
Yep. It's actually 32 then. I could lie again.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's chilly. That's for darn
Yeah.
sure.
I'm gonna leave in about 10 minutes also because I haven't had dinner. Have you, Gretch?
Why do you think I keep putting myself on mute and turning the camera off for a second? My dinner is
what a
right next to
trip.
me.
I actually have to cook my wife's over at my grandkids' house, I told you. Just to
Oh,
watch them for the
well,
weekend.
I have my husband's here and my father-in-law's here, and my husband made dinner, and I'm downstairs in what I used to call our family room, but is now Troy's record room. But he brought it down here for me. So, yep, it's sitting here right next to me.
Well, I'm hungry. I'll wait till 8:10. That's fine.
Well, it's been fairly quiet here. I mean, we did have a good conversation going about a couple of different things, but now we're just sort of shooting the
Yep.
bull.
Well-
So Viola left, Steve left. We have had a couple of new people. Oh, Brianna's here. Hi, Brianna. Thanks for joining us. We were
Yep.
talking about Expo. I'll be there. Adam is yet to be determined. So
Yeah, I don't know. Dubious.
We have the media kit and we have the gift of gab.
So
Yeah, I
we
mean,
still
I
have
just-
some people hanging here. Some people have been here for most of the night because I still can't scroll on our attendee list here. And
That's- I
we
think
seem to have some of the same folks, so I'm wondering if they're just doing other stuff, hanging out, or if
They
they
might-
left the office or just walked away.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm looking at the list here. So I can actually scroll. I'm not sure what the problem is with your touchpad. That's an interesting thing because mine works. So I'm using a Mac, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, me too. And I'm on
Yeah.
Chrome. And I even made my window smaller. And I
Hmm.
can do it on my phone, but I can't do it here.
Very interesting. Interesting and confusing. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure Jake can look at it and try to.
Oh, he already did. So we
Oh, okay.
and Mike jumped in. I can scroll on the main window. It's just the attendee list in a room. So I'll be doing that on my phone tomorrow.
It's interesting that Brianna Rue is going to be attending Vision Expo. She's from Florida.
Oh,
No big deal. Drove to Orlando.
yeah. I think that's what they're counting on actually at Expo is all the Florida people who can't get their CE online, right? So why not go to Expo to get some CE?
Now, how do they do that with the broker system? Does Expo apply to be a broker? I'm not sure how it works for Floridians.
I think they can put their courses in. I mean, I'm sure we could do it too. I haven't done it yet because there's only one other state that we care about, which would be Texas. And right now, Texas people are doing it themselves with CEwire because everybody else uses the OE tracker. I think other states haven't jumped into working with CBroker because I think they've seen what happened in Florida and Texas. Like, you don't want to tie yourself up with a for-profit company to handle all of your CE stuff. It's ridiculous, right? Because now those licensees are stuck using the system forever, right? It's going to be very difficult for those states to disentangle themselves from this company's CE broker.
But Dr. Rue does say they apply, so she is aware of it.
Yep. So, yeah, and again, they have to be all in person in Florida, no virtual, which is insane.
I believe you could take one credit optometric management or something online. Dr. Rue, am I correct? That's a pittance.
Yeah, we'll make more fun of the Florida board later this weekend.
Yep. There's no resisting.
I keep hoping that somebody from the board will come on and be in the room when we start making fun of them because they deserve it at this point. I cannot think of a more out of touch way of thinking when even the MDs in your state are allowed to take 100% of their CE online. Like, literally, they have to file their papers in the same building as the optometry board. Like, the offices are right next to each other. You could go talk. Like, it's mind-blowing to me that optometry behaves this way when the MDs can do whatever they want.
Dr. Rue, I'm surprised it wasn't February 29th that they make it more difficult. License renewal, if you look what you wrote. We understand it's a money thing, but to be in person when you're pregnant with 3 kids and you're in a different part of the state is just reprehensible. It's just hard, it's expensive, it's time consuming, etc.
Yeah,
I think that's not.
I can understand the protectionist argument, which is what they'll never make that argument publicly, right? Because they can't. Because CE is really about protecting the public, right? It's for public safety. But I think ultimately, even if you try that protectionist way of going, you have to come up with a long-term solution because that's not going to be it. Eventually, it's just going to look so backwards to the rest of the universe that something has to be done. And again, I don't know. So what some of the other states are doing, like I know some of the smaller states here out west, they've banded together to have virtual CE where the societies themselves get a certain percentage of the revenue from the CE. That's a pretty smart technique, I think. Doing what they can. So yeah, it's a sticky problem. I just don't know what they're going to do, but I would guess over the next 10 years, something is going to have to change because they just can't keep going on the way they are.
And I mean, COVID was great because it made people aware of online services. We had many more people when obviously that took place. You think Florida would have changed at that point? But no.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting quandary because since COVID, I was talking to my wife about this actually because she's in education and does tech as well and a lot of distance stuff. She was actually surprised that CEwire is still growing. I mean, not only hadn't it shrunk, we actually have more people year over year, right? COVID was a sort of like a step upwards. Like we had a little bit of a plateau before and then and we're continuing to still go up. But what they're seeing is that a lot of platforms in general not only did they not plateau after COVID, they actually started going down, right? So people are in a lot of ways going back to physical meetings and not doing as much of their education online. So we actually got kind of lucky with what we're doing. People obviously like it because probably because it's a good value, I would guess.
And I agree with Dr. Rue saying that a combination is fine. One thing you'll find, Brianna, is that when you're giving your lecture, you're not going to be interrupted because people can chat while you're talking. So it actually,
right.
in some ways, is better than being live.
And I agree with her too that like not everything is amenable to doing stuff online, right? Like if you're watching a lecture about dry eye, fine, right? This is like tailor-made to do online. Stuff that needs a wet lab, not a chance, right? You really need to be in person for that. And that's why I think there's a mix, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future, right? Like if states respond that way, where they say, you know what, you can do 80% of your stuff online. We want to make sure physically, at least once a year, you're somewhere, right, where you're physically taking these classes and maybe doing a wet lab or two. I could see that happening eventually.
Yes, especially with ODs getting lasers and injectables and lancing chalazions, things like that. You can't do that online. It's hard to pop a pimple.
Yep.
Yes, that's right, Dr. Rue. People are reading the newspaper, they're on their phones, they're not listening, and because there's no quiz, they don't get the information. So why is live great when you have no requirements?
Yeah. And in fact, I went back and forth with Arbo. So when Arbo changed their requirements in 2023 or whenever it was, and they got rid of the idea of having a quiz, I actually, this would probably make me an enemy of a lot of people here, I actually told them not to do it. I in fact got up in front of everybody at Arbo at their annual meeting and I said, do not do this. Like for the virtual education, you want to have a quiz if you can, and it should be uniform. Everyone should follow the same rules and we should all have a quiz. Because if you don't, right, you're going to have the newspaper thing where people are paying less attention. And for whatever reason, they decided to drop that requirement. And again, I never really understood the logic of dropping that requirement for the interactive CE, but not for the asynchronous CE. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, and there's a dirty little secret that the public doesn't know about the quiz requirements from Arbo. It has to be 4 questions, no A and C, all the above, none of the above, no true and false, etc. And so many questions are amendable to none of the above, all the above, and you can't write it that way. And many of our lecturers make that mistake. We send a lecture back. So it's a specific format, which I think is too Spartan. That's just mine and 20,000 other people.
Yep, I'm not sure why they do it that way. There's so many questions I had when I went to that Arbo meeting that I couldn't get good answers for, like why things are done the way they are. But I fought the good fight. I got up there and I said my piece. So
they don't have a staff of thousands either, just like us.
Yeah, that's true. They're very small. I think they maybe have 6 or 7 full-time employees, maybe. But when you go to the meeting, though, you're of course meeting with the board of directors and everything else, and you're meeting with the executive director and so on and so forth. So you're meeting with sort of not only the professional staff who actually runs it, but you're also meeting with the volunteers who run it. So it's a fascinating mix of people. Hopefully I'll make it out to one of their meetings again, although I'm getting tired of going to the AOA meeting, and their meeting is always at the AOA meeting. I wish the AOA would, step it up and go to a really fun place one year. Where is it going to be next year? Do you have any idea?
Boston.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which isn't bad.
No, that's not bad at all. Yeah. That might actually be one to go to.
Well, it could be horribly hot, and we're probably going to be in that seaport area, but this is just me being cranky.
Yeah. It's June, it's not July, whatever.
It can get really hot in June in Boston.
That's true.
Well, maybe it'll be a Yankee game I can go to. At Fenway Park. I've never been there.
Yeah.
Oh, I had to go one year. I went to Fenway. It's an experience, and I'm glad that I went.
My favorite baseball game actually though was the Rockies when they had the conference in Denver, and I'm like, this is a good place for a conference. I mean, Denver,
And those
yeah,
13-12 games.
yeah, it's
They
yeah. I
actually,
mean,
they put the balls in an instrument to make them less lively in Colorado now. The
yeah,
even
they
playing
have to,
field.
because the stadium itself, when you go in there, it's gigantic. I mean, it's probably the biggest stadium I've ever been in outside of the University of Michigan's football stadium. It's huge, and still these guys were hitting the ball 500 feet.
One of the most fun things I did in Denver was going to Red Rocks. I have always wanted to go to see a concert at Red Rocks, and I was able to. So I like that it was close enough when we were at AOA in Denver to do that.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing outside things.
Yep. So that's one city I'm hoping they make it back to, because that was fun. Not only because it's close and easy for me to get to, but
Well, we've had a couple of AOAs and a couple of academies there.
yep. It's such a fun city.
Maybe I will open my handy dandy meeting sheet, or even just go to the AOA's website and see what they say. Let's see. Because I forget. No, this year we're in Minneapolis, not in Boston.
Yes, I think Boston is the year after, or that might be the Academy. I'm not sure
Okay,
which.
so AOA is Minneapolis, Phoenix, Boston, Seattle,
Okay, so I
National
saw
Harbor,
Boston.
Maryland.
Anyway, Phoenix in the summertime. That doesn't sound good.
It is
Right.
it is common for the AOA to pick a location not when you want it to be there. I remember an AOA in New Orleans, and it felt like swimming from the hotel to the convention center. And this was 20 years ago, a million years ago. I was at Contact Lens Spectrum then, so that's how long ago it was. So yeah, AOA does pick place, and probably to try and keep pricing down for everybody, for attendees as well as for vendors and sponsors, because those are really off seasons. I mean, you want to go to Phoenix now as opposed to in June.
Yep.
110 degrees.
So I'm
Okay, I'm
looking
going
here
to
to
bow
see.
out to eat dinner. I'm hungry, and
All
be
right.
back at 9 o'clock.
All right.
All right,
Yep.
Steve, I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yep. I'll wear yellow carnations to recognize me.
Catch you later. All right, Gretchen. So it's just me and you.
Just us chickens. You know, I'm noticing that when I took my camera off on Zoom, it didn't show it here in Realms, and Paul is showing us still here.
So he's actually, it's what it's actually showing me is just a freeze frame of you guys. So that's what everyone else is seeing. They're seeing a freeze frame of the last
Why
frame
is
before
that?
you guys dropped off. I have no idea.
Actually, I don't mind it, because then that's not a bad thing if we need to just pop out to eat dinner or hit the restroom or something.
Yep.
But it also still looks in a way like we are still here if we're not looking at our Zoom windows, because then somebody might try to talk to us and we're not
Yep.
here.
Yep, yep. Pretty nifty.
Well, we're down
Yeah.
to fewer people here. I still can't scroll, so it's still
I'm
the
scrolling.
same.
I'm trying to see if anybody new came in. Anybody needs any help? I'm not really seeing it.
Oh,
so
Carlo
that's
just
good.
arrived. Hi, Carlo.
Oh, hey, Carlo. Happy New Year.
Thanks for popping on.
Yeah, so his account works. That's good. And
Yeah.
his partner in crime, Melissa, who will be giving the talk with him, hopefully she is able to log in okay. I'm going to review everyone's account again tonight, part of my checklist of making sure everybody can get in so we don't have a meltdown tomorrow morning. So yeah, Carlo decided to have a partner this year at his talk, which is kind of good. One of his colleagues, so.
Yeah, that's always nice. So are you seeing anything coming up from the wildfires, like smoke, or are you getting any of this cold weather?
No, it's been, I'm going to knock on wood, because remember, it's the 1 year anniversary just about of that stupid ice storm we had
Yep.
But I'm going to knock on wood that our weather here has been totally calm. It's actually been blue skies, which is a little bit
Wow.
creepy. It's creepy actually in Portland in winter because the skies have been incredibly blue and you can actually go outside and walk and it's like, this is not natural.
Yeah. I mean, take the win, but still. I mean, that was like for us when it was 60 degrees the week before Christmas. That,
Yeah.
okay, that was lovely, yes, but we weren't supposed to have that.
Yeah. So it's kind of a weird feeling. Of course, with California, like they are just it's rough. I mean, and people don't seem to want to understand like the way this works out west is if you have a really wet year, it's beautiful because you get tons of green and you get wildflowers coming everywhere, but you know what it means. If you have a really wet year followed by a year with no rain, which is what California had, right? A super wet one followed by a nothing. Those are the conditions for disaster. That's what happened here in 2020, where 2019, typical Portland, super wet. And then the next year, not so much. It was drought. And so you had a bunch of brush and dead stuff, and the whole place just went up in smoke. So yeah, so California had those sort of unique conditions this year, and then the wind, they didn't need that. So 80-mile-an-hour winds on top of it. It was a sort of tailor-made disaster.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I mean, they're still having some outbreaks of fires. They had a little rain, I think, this week for the first time in a year. It's funny, Reed's going down there on Sunday. So I told him to take a lot of pictures so we can see, what it looks like.
Oh, yeah.
He's supposed to be touring the Getty Museum actually on Monday. So
Well, at least there is a Getty Museum.
Yeah, we'll see if they even open because I know there was another fire there yesterday.
Boy.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's tough, but yeah, it'll just be interesting to see how they rebuild and what they're going to do, and the houses are going to look a little bit different in the neighborhoods that are rebuilding. In the neighborhoods where they do have the money to rebuild differently, what will they actually do?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of the same conversation that happens after hurricanes and earthquakes and where should people be rebuilding and how should they be doing it and who should be paying for all of that. There are a lot of conversations to be had around that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the interesting part about this one, though, is one of the neighborhoods, right, Pacific Palisades, is an incredibly expensive neighborhood, right? The houses there are typically between $15 and $30 million. So the question is going to be like, will very wealthy people just say, you know what, I like it so much here, I'm just going to rebuild, and sure, insurance won't cover me, but oh well. If I lose another $30 million house, whatever. It'll be interesting to see, though, if they do rebuild, how they rebuild, what the structures are going to look like to be more fireproof, if they can even make something that can withstand the kind of fire that they had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it looks like it's 5:20 here just about, and I'm going to stick around for a little while longer, but it seems like kind of getting a couple new people coming in and out. So hello if you just popped in to see us, and thanks for coming out to the little open house here. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. The important thing to know is if you actually are here, it means that your account works. So that's the most important thing, right? We just wanted to verify that people's accounts worked. So if you can hear me, that means your account's working. So you should be good to go.
Thanks for stopping by, Carlo.
Yep, always great to have one of our speakers stop in and say hi.
Yeah, I think that we've had the highest number of speakers here tonight, and we likely have done the lowest amount of promoting this Friday evening event.
Yep. I think I sent
Maybe that's the key, Adam.
Two emails about it, right? One earlier in the week and then one earlier today. That was it. And I don't know. I actually have to try to figure it out. I think I can figure out or actually see how many people didn't actually come into us to say hi, but did pop into this part, did pop into that screen, that first screen, you know, that landing screen when you
just to make sure that the
authorize your
login
account.
worked.
So I think I can actually see who got this far. I have to count that afterwards, and because to me that makes me feel a lot better. Like if I see that 900 people came, even if they're not listening to us, just knowing that they made it this far and that they logged in properly, that to me means everything, right? You can see that I'm logged in up here.
And that's good, because that way people can suss out if there are any problems beforehand, before they miss the opportunity to jump into a class. And then that means fewer support challenges and fewer people going into panic mode. So yeah, I'm really grateful when people pop in.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be that's what I'm most scared of always on this first event, is that the volume of support requests is going to overwhelm our ability to handle them, right? So getting like 10 in at once, that's always my big fear. It hasn't really happened, which is good, but it's my fear. Or my other big fear is that something systemic is going to happen that's going to require Jake to intervene in a significant way, and everyone's going to be like blocked from getting in, and then people panic and then start emailing, and it's like this cascade of panic. So it's good to see tonight the system's working fine. People are getting in, they can see everything. So I'm not expecting too many big problems tomorrow.
Yeah, and things are working smoothly tonight. So this is the first hurdle to get everything working tonight, and we are. So yeah, I'll take it.
Yep. I'm just putting up the schedule again. It's this one was challenging.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, we seem to have more 2-hour classes. I have the feeling that Sunday is going to be a slower day for us, just because of the number of 2-hour classes.
Yep.
And I'll take it,
a lot of
because
2-hour
the Eagles
classes
start at 3:00.
Oh, there you go. A lot of 2-hour classes. And the other issue was we had so many more hours this year, right? 77, that it was actually getting difficult to find spots for every class between the constraints that we had with people that couldn't show up at certain times, right? And then there were people who had preferred times, and so we had to really work to try to find spots for everyone.
Just you wait, Adam. One day soon, we are going to be doing 12 hours.
It almost happened. I mean, I was starting to panic. I'm like, maybe we do have to run an extra hour. But fortunately, I was able to cram it all in.
And we even have, let's see, I'm scrolling through it myself. So we do have an hour block on Sunday. I think that's the only one, right? Yeah,
Yes.
there is an open block on Sunday. Just one.
And then, and then in the afternoon, the very last at the end, there's a couple of open ones. That was on purpose, actually. So if we needed to move somebody, if somebody had an emergency, we like to leave a couple at the end so we can move courses out there if need be without bumping anybody. And good part too is that the system here is seems to be running super smoothly, which is good. As you know, Gretchen, this has been a challenging few weeks with our systems here that I've had to kind of rebuild.
Well, just remember last year you had one to rebuild, I think the night before or something. It was something ridiculous, and you about lost your mind.
Yep. That I did, but now the systems all seem to be working fine, so makes me feel a little better.
I think we may have had a couple of new people pop on, or people are popping off and coming back. So hi to anybody who just popped on. Thanks for being here. We're here to answer Any questions? If you have any questions, just put it in the text box to the right, and we are here.
Yep.
All quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, there really is not much going on, which is great. So, and I'm not getting too many support emails too, which is good. So that's always a huge concern, right? Is, oh my God, I'm going to get overwhelmed with support emails, but that hasn't happened, which is good.
Well, we start off bright and early tomorrow with our classes at 10 a.m.
Yep.
I'm waiting to
Indeed.
see if 2026 requires a 9 a.m. Eastern time start.
Oh God.
Oh, Faustina has a question. Hi, thanks for joining us. There is a link under each video window when you are in your room to see your lecture, and you will see that there are the surveys will pop up, but you could also go to, it is at CEwire2025.com/survey, Adam, where all of the surveys are listed. So everything is there. You can click that link. It should be fairly
Right.
easy to find, and
Yeah.
we
So,
suggest doing the survey right after the class.
yep. So oops, I'm misspelling everything. So what you'll find is that there's a public service announcement that's going to run before the first lecture, and it'll actually show you where the surveys are, but you'll see it beneath the lecture window, and then to the right of the lecture window, you'll see a link to each survey after the class is done. And you'll have about 5 minutes to fill out the survey, and the surveys are really fast. They're like literally like, did you like this class? Was this terrible? What would you do better? So most people can knock out a survey in like 30 or 45 seconds if they don't have anything to say. But we give you that 5-minute break in between each class so you can take it. And again, the links will be really visible, really obvious. Once you do it once or twice, once you get into the flow, it'll be no problem whatsoever. But as Gretchen mentioned, if you, for whatever reason, miss a survey, I'm going to be sending you a link via email, or as you saw it up here, it says CEwire2025.com/surveys, which is a link to all of the surveys and a link to all of the handouts for each lecture and a link to all of the discussion threads about each lecture. So this is going to be sort of a one-stop shop where you can always go back and get information about a lecture if you need it. And as you can see, it's alphabetized by instructor name. I couldn't think of a better way to actually do that.
Good question. Thank you for asking that. Anybody else have any questions while we're here?
I don't know. I'm glad we stuck
answer.
around this long for all my brethren here on the East Coast, right? Or on the West Coast, because like we usually quit because we get too tired. But you know, we're hanging in here, and it's good that we're able to answer questions for folks who might have just gotten out of their office right now.
Yep. Yep. Interesting. This is one of the times that we don't have any of our speakers with us here. Just about the entire time for the last 2.5 hours, we've had some of our speakers here. So it's kind of funny that this is the only time that we've had
Yep.
so many this year.
I wonder, I didn't really look. I wonder how many of our speakers are from the East Coast versus West.
That's an interesting thought.
I never really paid attention to it, but perhaps the only time I really knew, like I had to really pay attention to time zones, we have a few speakers from overseas. So I had to be like super careful about when I scheduled their talks, right? Because I didn't want to do it at like 3 in the morning for them.
Yeah.
Kayla's from Idaho.
Oh, by the way, be sure to look at my Slack message about something that I asked you to do to the sponsor page. Just FYI.
Will do. Yep. So as soon as we're off here, I'm going to be going down a checklist of a million things I have to do to get everything set up for tomorrow.
Okay.
So
I
that'll
just
be
wanted
one
to
of
make
them.
sure it didn't get
Yep.
lost in the shuffle.
Not a problem. All right, Oliver, he's from my neighborhood. How could I forget?
Oh, one more question. So if you are, it depends on what state you're in.
No,
So
no, no.
we
Does
have
not depend. No, no, no. We do not send credits to state boards. No, 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 no.
Oh, I was going to talk about CE broker versus OE tracker.
So yeah, so even so the only place we submit credits is to the OE tracker. So other than that, you're on your own. Like individual state boards, I guess it's a philosophical thing, right? The whole idea behind ARBO was so that CE providers wouldn't have to submit things to individual boards, right? Because ARBO does it for us or for you, right? Because ARBO is the one, once they have credits from us in the OE tracker, then the state boards can reach out and take those credits directly. So as long as you're part of a state that subscribes to the OE tracker, you should be fine. Now, if you're from Texas, that's a different kettle of fish. You have to actually manually go into CE broker and list each one of the classes from this event. We are listed as a CE provider in the CE broker, but we don't automatically upload, if that makes sense.
That's what I was trying to say.
And in fact, let me tell you where Dr. Martinez is from. So there, because I can, so she's a Texas person.
Uh-oh, there you go.
So yeah, so this is, unfortunately, Texas made life difficult for their licensees. So that's the problem. Okay,
now we're looking a little creepy, Adam.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't mean
You're looking a little stalkery.
Didn't mean to be stalkery. Fortunately, no one's here but us. But the Texas made life difficult for all of us because by subscribing to CE broker to handle the your credits, they made it so that you're now relying on a private company, CE broker, who has nothing to do actually with optometry in general, right? They handle credits for like plumbers and stuff and electricians for their continuing education. I'm serious. But now you have this third-party company that is getting involved in the process because I guess the folks who ran the board in Texas didn't want to do it themselves. Like they outsourced it for some reason. But the problem is it's difficult for us to submit credits straight into CE broker. We don't have a system to do it. But what we were able to do with CE broker was get ourselves listed as a CE provider. And there's a discussion thread on ODwire from Texas folks who explain exactly how to get it done. Let me see if I can actually find it for you. Let me see if I can find the thread for you. I'll find it. And if I can find the link, I could even plop it right here.
You might even say, Adam, I don't care that much.
Here we go. I found it. Look at that. I'm fast. So I'm going to put it up on the screen. Actually, maybe I could pop it into the window. Let me be clever about this.
Okay, now you're just being a tech geek.
I'm going to be a show-off, but I think it's important, though, for Texas folks. Because the thing is, like, this is a great example of self-help. Because I didn't even know how to do this, right? I didn't know the actual process because I never had to do it myself, right? But in this thread, like, all I managed to do was get us listed with CE link removed. All right, hang on.
What kind of rinky-dink
right.
operation is ODwire, man? Oh, wait, no, it's Realms.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I just let Jake know about that. In any event, if I put it
saw
up on
that,
the screen.
and yes, we will need that for tomorrow as well.
Yeah. If I put it up on the screen here, though, you can see in ODwire, there's a whole to-do about what to do with the CE broker and how it works, where other folks who've taken the course explain how to actually do it. So
there you go. Well done. Well, how old is that thread? That's got to be a while ago.
2022.
Oh, I thought it was longer than that.
Nope. I'm not sure when Texas. Yeah, I'm not sure when Texas actually implemented CE broker. It's been a few years. I don't know exactly when though. But yeah, it's a thorn in our side. Yeah, it's a thorn in our side though. I'm really upset that they did it. I'm still mad about it. It's still bitter all these years later. Because only one other state or two other states maybe, I think it's Florida for sure, but they don't count because they don't allow Internet CE, and I think South Carolina might be the other one. I don't really remember. But for the most part, most states don't bother doing it because the OE tracker works so well, and it's basically free, right? So, yeah.
All right, Jake. Jake is on top of it.
So it was configured that way. That's funny. Hilarious.
Well, hey, at least it's an easy fix. We'll take it, right?
And I'm glad we found it tonight, which is the whole purpose of doing this orientation. So,
right. Thanks, Dr. Martinez. We will see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for the question. And thank you for helping us troubleshoot our system. You discovered something really important that we needed to know. It would have been terrible if it happened tomorrow.
Absolutely terrible. And apologies for the stalking.
Yes, fortunately, nobody's here but us. So there's like, I think 10 people left here, and they're all your peers at CEwire. So my apologies for that.
She's a good sport about it, which is great. We have any new people? Anybody new who's popped on? We are here for questions.
I don't know. Yeah. So if anybody just showed up and wants to say hi, we are here for questions for at least a few more minutes before I get to run away, go eat dinner, and then get back to configuring the system for tomorrow. At least tomorrow, you know, the laid back part of it will be we're not doing too much in the way of formal interviews of people or anything like that. It's really just more being available for CEwire participants, which is nice. And playing some of our, you know, webinars that we've done, which were pretty cool. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Especially that new one talking about the new code for.
Yeah. Yeah. That was I mean, it was an interesting lecture. I'm not sure, you know, how many conclusions one can draw yet. You know, it's good that there's a new code. I just can't wait to hear what people's experiences are with the insurers and what they're going to say when you make the submissions.
Yeah, and some of the payers may even be, okay, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
So they may not be on top of it yet.
Yep. But OCTA pays so much better than OCT, though. It's going to come down to like deciding where's my break-even point for replacing my existing OCT with an OCTA. Like how quickly can I actually make back the money on it if you're just looking at it strictly from dollars and cents perspective, where reimbursements for regular OCTs have dropped and OCTAs are now covered. So it's like, well, maybe this is the time to do it. I mean, if my OCT is going to croak anyway in the next couple of years, maybe it's worthwhile upgrading now. You know, you got to think this way, right?
Especially because reimbursements aren't ever going to go up.
Right, they're only going to go down. So like maybe this is the best time to buy. Oh, and I see Roya here. Hey, Roya. I didn't notice you on the list before.
Oh, hi, Roya.
So, excellent.
Yet another one of our speakers popping on.
Yep.
Oh, Mo
and
too.
Mo is here. Hey, guys.
Yes, you use the same link to log in tomorrow, and you can go to your schedule and see what room you are in, and you just go to that room. So when you log in, you come to the lobby here, and you just go click on the link to the room that you will be in. And in fact, we can tell you what room you will be in.
Let me actually tell you what room you guys are in tomorrow, because I tried to post a link to the schedule and it just denied me. The system just made me look like a fool
Roya,
again.
you are in room 2, and Mo, you are in room 4 for your 10 o'clock. And then for the 11 o'clock, you are all in room 4. So Mo, you don't need to move, but Solar and Roya, you'll need to move into room 4.
Right, and so remember,
good question.
Remember to get to the proper classroom. As you know, when you just logged in here tonight, you saw on that first page there was a left menu. I'll show you if you can't see it. I'll bring it up on the screen so you can see. When you logged into that first page, there's a left menu here. If you click the back button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you'll get back out to that main menu. And on the left menu here is where you choose which classroom you want to go to. So it's very easy. You just pick the right classroom and you're done. So pretty straightforward. So that's
Very
Roya's
cool.
class.
We had more of our speakers pop by. Love it.
Yeah, and that's Mo's class in room 4. So pretty nifty. Yeah, so it's a pretty easy system. I always, it's funny, when people use it for the first time, I think everyone gets a little apprehensive because always, new platforms are like, oh gosh, what do I do? Well, what we find is once people do it once and they get into it, it becomes super intuitive and easy for them to use. So, and again, we're always here. This lobby that we're in right now is going to be running tomorrow as well. And Gretchen and I will be here. So feel free to pop back in here tomorrow morning as well if you just want to shoot us a message if you're having trouble. You always know where to get us.
We are here for you.
Yeah, I'm glad we actually ran it this long. And here I was ready to
It's really
quit.
cool the way that is up there with Mo's slide and with his picture and all of that. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm glad that it loads up with the first class.
Yeah, that's actually a really nice feature that it, has the countdown timer. Basically before every class, there's that countdown timer that runs. But this just so happened that since we set everything up already, it's been counting down like this for the past 2 days. So it started at, 2 days, 12 hours or whatever. Yeah, so.
That's pretty funny. Anybody else who just popped in who has a question? We are here.
Yep, we are here to help. If anyone needs help, I don't know.
Adam, I put up a new LinkedIn post if that's something you might want to go boost.
Aha, that might be a good idea. So I'll add it to my list of stuff to do. I got a running list here, so as soon as we're off.
Do you want me to do it? I could probably do it.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
It'll take me, that takes me literally 5 seconds. It's funny, those social media companies, anything involving money, paying them, no friction whatsoever. It takes 5 seconds.
We will take your money and make it easy.
All right, cool. Well.
Oh wait, we do have Len is here.
Oh, cool.
And Vito are still here, unless if they're still here, I don't know if they actually are because of my list doesn't refresh well. So that's cool if they're still here. But yeah, we have only a handful of people here now.
Yep. Well, yeah, it's the getting to the bitter end. It looks like several hundred people actually did come into the main page of the conference, just kicking the tires, but not to hear us gab. So that's good. That makes me feel better.
Oh yeah, that's totally good. I mean, they don't need to come hear us yap. The fact that they logged in and made sure that everything logged in okay, that's great news.
Yep. Yeah, that makes me feel much better. Just knowing that it all works. And what's nice, of course, is that once they do it once, the future sessions in April and in June and in September, if they can do it once, it means they're going to be logged in already. So when they come back, it's going to be even easier. The other thing, too, is the ancillary pages, like that one that I created, this one, the synchronous survey page and whatever, that page, to actually look at it, you need to be logged in. So if people try to get to that page and they're not logged in, it nags at them to log in. So that's kind of a good thing. Again, it just ensures that people are going to be logged in properly. They need to be not only logged in, they also need to be registered for the conference. So yeah, again, it's sort of a check that we use.
That's not a bad thing.
To catch people ahead of time. Yeah, it's not, because there's no real reason that this needs to be this isn't top secret or anything, right? The links to the threads and the handouts, but you can't actually get the threads or the handouts unless you're registered for the conference. And so I just thought, let's just make this page completely locked down.
Yeah, because I mean, the handouts, I mean, that's people's intellectual property.
Yep. Yep. So yeah,
But
you
I
can't
will
download the
say I
handouts.
like it sometimes when that stuff is not locked down because for someone who is looking for information, sometimes it is helpful to see handouts from people's lectures, but
Yep.
as a lecturer, maybe not a good idea.
Yeah. So that's the thing. We had to be really careful about that. So we locked it down as best we could. This obviously the conference itself is locked down to a degree. We have to be registered to get in to see everything. So we try to do what makes our speakers most comfortable. And again, that's why we don't keep the lectures up there forever either. A lot of people are uncomfortable having their work live forever,
Right.
especially in a field that's changing rapidly because this stuff gets out of date. So,
And that makes sense.
yep. Cool. Well, I think we are getting to the end here.
Anybody else who just popped in has any questions? We're here.
Yeah, we're here. We're just hanging out. I think tomorrow is going to be a good day. I'm getting that sense. I'm getting the sense that it's going to all go really well.
It's better than you predicting doom and a disaster.
No, I've got a good vibe about this just because of the way things have been working. I only screwed up one thing today, which is good. The playhead, and Jake says he's going to make sure I don't do it again. So, right on.
That's all good. So we'll start playing. Who is it? Black Eyed Peas. Tonight's going to be a good night. I got a feeling.
Don't sing. You're going to get us a copyright strike or something.
Oh, that's true. Well, you don't want me singing anyway. I am not known for my singing talents. I have other talents, but singing is not one of them.
That's funny. We actually had a lecture that Laura Perriman did, and she included some copyrighted music in it, and we ran it over the stream just as a sample, and all of a sudden I started getting these letters, you know, from YouTube, like cease and desist and copyrighted music. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I remembered, oh right, we had a lecture with some music.
Yeah, I remember that. It was her 80s dance party, which is such a great idea for a lecture. Way to get people to feel engaged and involved. And I mean, she's not looking to, you know, rip anybody off.
Yeah,
and
so
it's unfortunate.
You know, the tech just scans everything for certain signatures, sound signatures, and obviously they have all the copyrighted music, so I thought that was funny. That's why, of course, the beginning pieces in CEwire, when you guys watch tomorrow, the piano piece, that's Reed playing the piano, and it's always a classical piece because
common usage
from the 1800s, right? Nobody's going to come after us. So, I mean, if anyone's going to give me a copyright strike, it's Reed himself. He's probably getting pissed off that I keep using his music.
You know, I read something a couple of weeks ago that if you ever see video clips on any social media, sometimes they're reversed. And the reason why they're flipped backward is to avoid any of the copywriting dings from bots finding them. So if it's flipped, it isn't as easy to detect.
Yeah, and so a lot of times you can use people's footage, but under fair use, it's got to be small clips, and you have to make it. You have to transform the content, right? Like you can comment on what it is that you're seeing, but even so, what can sometimes happen with YouTube is that even if you're using something innocently that way, they can ding you anyway, and you have almost no recourse, right? What are you going to do? Complain to the YouTube gods? What do they care?
Right? You'll be yelling at clouds.
Yeah, so it can be really challenging. So I can see why people engage in those kind of tricks. For us, it doesn't matter, right? Because whenever we use it, we never monetize the streams anyway, because who really cares, right? I'm not, you know, I'm not looking for 5 million views or whatever, so it doesn't really matter.
Is that really the limiting factor if you're trying to monetize it?
Yeah, yep. So YouTube's biggest and only threat is demonetization. And that's what they'll do. If their bots run across a piece of copyrighted content, they won't necessarily yank it down immediately. What they're going to say is this content is now demonetized. which is effectively the same thing, right? Because for the content creators who are making this stuff, demonetization is like death, right? It's like the worst thing that could happen for us. Like, for instance, we use YouTube as a transport for the stream right now just because it's reliable, but it's completely demonetized on purpose. I tell the system, do not put commercials on this. Oh, hello, Kitty.
Yes, this is Huck.
Hey, Huck.
Want to say hi, Huckle? Well, of course, whenever I want him to meow, he doesn't. He's a very meowy cat, and he's a very purry cat.
Very cute.
Can't hear him purring. Huckle, you gonna say hi to everybody? I'll be interested to see who comes to join me tomorrow and Sunday, because the cats come to where you are. So we'll see if Huck comes, or if we have Jake, because remember, I'm in Troy's record room, and it usually sits down here to, I don't want to say listen to records because he's a deaf cat, but he sits down here with Troy. So we'll see. We might have an appearance by another kitty cat.
Very cute. I look forward to it. You're not going to get much of that here. You might get Reed wandering in looking for food, but that's about it.
Well, I don't know. Reed might be my my good luck charm for Eagles, because the last time when we got into the Super Bowl was when I was there watching that playoff game on.
Was it? My God, that was
on
so
the
long
Sunday?
ago.
Yeah.
Wow, I would have thought the Eagles would have made it back since then. Huh.
Well, we get to the playoffs, but we don't get. I mean, we're no Kansas City Chiefs.
They may meet their match this year. They don't seem very good.
The Chiefs?
They seem like they almost want to lose each time. It's like they're like, well, maybe we should try to win about halfway through, and then somehow they do. But I don't know. You can't keep going on like that forever, right? Eventually that catches up with you.
Well, Exhibit A, Dallas Cowboys.
There you go.
And to those of us in the Philly area, that's like invoking Satan's name. But yeah, it'll be interesting. That's why I want to watch both playoff games. Even if the Eagles don't win, I do want to see that. And I like watching the Super Bowl. So yeah, we'll have to see.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we're done here because nobody else is coming in, and we have the same people, and I think they're all done with us. So cool. Well, thank you for this.
If there is anybody out there, we'll be around tomorrow to answer questions, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Yep. So Gretchen, we're going to be here at 9 a.m. your time, 6 a.m. Well, start setting everything up. So feel free to jump in.
And just so you know, just because it's so cold, I am not going to the farmer's market. We do have a winter market in my town, and it's it's twice a month from January through April.
Nice.
And tomorrow happens to be one of the days, but I am not going because it is too flipping cold. Right now it's 20 degrees and it feels like 18. So
farmer's market loss is our gain, so that's a good thing. So
there you go.
I will see you there tomorrow.
All righty.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for turning up, and we'll see everybody in a couple hours.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.